The first call came through just after midnight, and nobody answered it. I remember that clearly because the radio didn't sound right. It cracked once, then went quiet, then a voice slipped through like it had been waiting behind the noise. Hello? Hello? Is anyone there? I had my hand on the wheel, one eye on the empty road ahead, the other on the flickering dash. The highway stretched out in front of me like a dark river. No cars, no lights, just those faded white lines sliding under my headlights. I waited for dispatch to respond. They didn't. The voice came again, a little louder this time. Closer, please. I think something's wrong. I glanced at the radio. The green light was on. Channel was correct. Everything looked normal, but dispatch stayed silent. I picked up the mic halfway, then stopped. Drivers aren't supposed to answer those calls. That's what we're told. You keep moving. You let dispatch handle it. Still something about the way she said, "Something's wrong," didn't sit right with me. It wasn't panic. It sounded confused, like she didn't understand what was happening to her. The line went dead after that. Just a soft click, then static. I exhaled slowly and kept driving. Out here, things get strange sometimes. Signals bounce. Radios pick up fragments. You learn not to chase every odd sound. At least, that's what I used to tell myself. About 10 minutes later, it happened again. Same crackle, same dead air. Then the voice. Hello? My fingers tightened around the wheel. It was her. Same tone, same pause between words, like the message had been recorded or looped. I looked down at the mile marker as I passed it. I don't know why I remembered that. It just stuck. Hello, she said again, softer now. Can someone hear me? This time, I reached the mic. Yeah, I said before I could stop myself. I hear you. The moment the words left my mouth, I felt something shift. Not outside, inside, like I'd crossed a line I wasn't supposed to. The radio stayed quiet for a second. Too quiet. Then she spoke again. But now, she sounded different. Relieved. Oh, thank God. A cold feeling slid down my spine. Where are you? I asked. There was a pause. Not the kind where someone's thinking. The kind where something's deciding what to say. I'm on the side of the road, she said slowly. I think my car broke down. I checked my mirrors without thinking. Nothing behind me. Nothing ahead. What mile marker? I asked. Silence. Then, I don't know. Her voice dipped on that last word, like she wasn't sure if it was the right answer. I glanced at the dash again. My GPS had lost signal a few miles back. Just a blank screen now. What do you see around you? I said. She hesitated. It's dark. That's it. Yes. I frowned. Even out here, you see something. Trees, signs, guardrails. Any lights? I asked. No. Her answer came too fast. Are you in your car? Another pause. I think so. That made my stomach tighten. You think so? The radio crackled, sharp and sudden. It almost sounded like something cut through her signal. When she spoke again, her voice had dropped to a whisper. I don't want to get out. A chill crept up my arms. Why not? No answer. I slowed the truck just a little, my eyes scanning the roadside. Gravel shoulder, dry grass, long shadows stretching into nothing. Ma'am, I said carefully, I need you to tell me where you are. I told you, she said, and for the first time, there was something in her voice that didn't belong. Not fear, not confusion. Something irritated. I'm on the side of the road. My grip tightened again. Which road? Silence. The kind that presses against your ears. Then, the one you're on. I felt my chest go tight. I checked the mirrors again. Harder this time. Leaning forward, like I might have missed something. Still nothing. Just empty highway. You see me? I asked. I can't hear you, she said. That wasn't what I asked. A truck passed me going the other direction, its headlights blinding for a second. When it was gone, the darkness fell heavier. Are you hurt? I asked. No. Is anyone else with you? No. Her answers were quick again. Too quick, like she didn't need to think anymore. I swallowed. Stay where you are. I said, I'll come find you. The moment I said it, I regretted it. A small breath came through the radio. Not relief. Something else. Okay, she whispered. The line went dead again. I sat there for a second, staring at the road. I should have called dispatch. I should have reported it. Let them handle it like we're supposed to. But something told me they already knew, and they chose not to answer. I slowed the truck down to a crawl. The engine hummed low beneath me, steady and familiar. It was the only normal thing left. My headlights swept across the shoulder. Gravel, grass, a bent signpost. Then nothing. I drove past mile marker 18. Then 19. No car, no person, no lights. I kept going another mile before I finally pulled over. The silence hit me the moment I stopped. No engine rumble, no tire noise, just the wind brushing against the side of the truck. I picked up the mic again. Hello? Nothing. Ma'am, if you can hear me, respond. Static. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. Maybe it was just interference. A broken signal, looping from somewhere far off. It happens. It had to be that. I was about to put the mic down when... Why did you stop? I froze. The voice didn't come through the radio. It came from behind me. Soft, clear, right inside the cab. I turned slowly, my heart hammering in my chest. The back seat was empty. Just a blanket, some old boxes, a jacket tossed in the corner. Nothing else. I stared at it for a long second. Then I grabbed the door handle and stepped out into the night. The air was colder than it should have been. It wrapped around me instantly, sinking through my clothes. The road stretched out in both directions, silent and endless. I walked around the truck, my boots crunching softly on the gravel. Hello? I called out. No answer. Just the wind again. I moved toward the edge of the shoulder, peering into the darkness beyond the reach of my headlights. That's when I saw it. A shape far down the road, standing still. I squinted, tried to make it out. It looked like a person, thin, motionless, facing away from me. My chest tightened. Hey! I shouted. Is that you? The figure didn't move, didn't react. It just stood there, perfectly still. I took a step forward, then another. Each step felt heavier than the last, like the ground didn't want me to get closer. Are you okay? I called out. Still nothing. The wind picked up slightly, brushing against my ears, and for a second, I thought I heard something behind me again. A faint shift, like someone moving inside the truck. I turned around quickly. Nothing, just the open door, the dark interior, the faint glow of the dashboard. When I looked back, the figure was gone, completely gone. My breath caught in my throat. I stood there, frozen, trying to understand what I'd just seen. There was nowhere it could have gone. No trees, no ditch deep enough to hide in, no sound of footsteps. Just gone. I backed up slowly, my eyes locked on the empty stretch of road. Every instinct in my body was screaming at me now. Get back in the truck. Leave. Don't ask questions. I climbed back into the driver's seat and slammed the door shut. The moment it closed, the radio crackled to life. I didn't touch it, didn't move. I just sat there, staring at it as the static twisted into a voice. Her voice. You passed me. My throat went dry. I was right there, she said. A pause. Then, softer, you didn't even stop. I felt something cold settle deep in my chest. I did. I whispered. The radio hissed. Then, no, she said. And this time, she sounded closer than ever. You didn't. I didn't plan to go back. That's the part one keep thinking about. I had already driven past her, or whatever that was. I had already heard her voice on the radio, inside the truck, and that should have been enough. Anyone with sense would have kept going, not slowed down, not looked back. But I did. I don't even remember making the decision. One moment I was gripping the wheel, telling myself to leave. The next, my foot eased off the gas. The truck slowed. The engine dropped into a low hum, and then I turned around. The empty road stretched ahead again, just like before. Mile marker 19 came and went, then 18, My eyes stayed fixed on the shoulder. Nothing. No car. No hazard lights. No person. For a second, I felt something close to relief. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe my brain filled in the dark with something that wasn't there. Then the radio clicked. Soft. Quick. I didn't touch it. You're coming back. Her voice was calm now. Almost certain. I swallowed. Where are you? A pause. Then you'll see me. The line went dead again. My chest felt tight, like the air inside the cab had thinned out. I kept driving. Slow this time. Slower than before. My headlights crawled across the road, dragging shadows with them. Mile marker 17 came into view. I leaned forward slightly, eyes scanning every inch of the shoulder. And then, there she was, standing exactly where I'd seen her before. Same spot, same stillness, facing away from the road. My grip on the wheel tightened until my fingers started to ache. She didn't move, didn't react to the sound of the truck approaching, didn't even shift her weight. She just stood there, like she had been placed there and forgotten. I slowed to a stop a few feet ahead of her. The engine idled. The headlights stretched past her, throwing her shadow long and thin across the ground. For a second, I just sat there, watching, waiting for her to do something. Anything. She didn't. I reached for the door handle. My hand paused halfway. Something about the way she stood it felt wrong. Not unnatural. Just too still. Like a picture of a person instead of a real one. I pushed the thought away and stepped out. The cold hit me again, sharper this time. It felt heavier around her. Like the air itself had weight. My boots crunched against the gravel as I walked closer. "Hey!" I called out. "Are you the one on the radio?" No response. I stopped a few feet behind her. Up close, I could see more detail. Her clothes looked normal. A dark jacket, jeans, nothing unusual. Her hair was long, hanging straight down her back, but it didn't move. Not with the wind. Not at all. "Ma'am," I said, softer now. "Are you okay?" She didn't answer, didn't even twitch. I felt that tight feeling again in my chest. "You said your car broke down," I continued. "Where is it?" Silence. The road behind me stayed empty. No passing cars. No distant lights. Just us. I took a step closer. "Can you turn around?" I asked. Nothing. My voice sounded smaller now. "Look, I can help you, but I need to see if you're hurt." Still nothing. A thin line of unease started to crawl up my spine. I shifted slightly, trying to catch a glimpse of her face from the side. But she adjusted. Not fully. Just enough. A small movement. Barely noticeable. But it blocked my view. I froze. That was the first time she moved. And it wasn't random. It was deliberate. Like she didn't want me to see her face. "You don't have to be scared," I said, though I wasn't sure who I was saying it for. "I'm not scared," she said. Her voice was quiet, flat, and it didn't come from the radio. It came from her. I felt a small jolt in my chest. "You weren't talking before," I said. "You didn't stop," she replied. The words hit harder this time. I did now. I said quickly, "I'm here." A pause. Then, softer, "You took too long." The wind picked up slightly, brushing against my jacket. Her hair still didn't move. I glanced down at the ground near her feet. No footprints, just smooth gravel, like she hadn't walked there, like she had always been there. I felt my mouth go dry. "Let's get you back to the truck," I said. "It's warmer inside." "No." The answer came instantly. Sharp, too sharp. I blinked. Why not? Another pause. Then, "I can't leave the spot." A slow, heavy feeling settled in my stomach. "What do you mean you can't?" She didn't answer right away. When she did, her voice sounded distant, like she was remembering something. "I tried," she said. "It doesn't let me." The words hung in the air between us. "It," I repeated. No response. I took another small step closer. Now I was right behind her, close enough to reach out, close enough to touch her shoulder. I hesitated. Something deep inside me was screaming not to, but another part, the part that needed answers, pushed forward. "Who doesn't let you?" I asked. She went quiet again, completely still. For a second, I thought she wouldn't answer. Then, you... My breath caught. What? You didn't stop? She said again. So now I can't leave. The air around me felt colder, heavier. That doesn't make sense, I said, my voice tight. You passed me, she continued, ignoring what I said. You saw me and you kept going. I shook my head. I came back. Another pause. Then, slowly, that's not how it works. Something shifted in my chest. A quiet realization. Or maybe just fear trying to make sense of things. What happens if I leave again? I asked. She didn't answer right away. The silence stretched. Then, you won't. A chill ran through me. Why? This time, her head tilted slightly. Just a little. Not enough to see her face, but enough to feel like she was listening. Because you hear me now, she said. I took a step back without thinking. What does that mean? No answer. The wind picked up again, louder this time. For the first time, her hair moved, just slightly. And in that small shift, I saw something I shouldn't have. Not her face, just a part of it. A glimpse, enough to know something was wrong. The skin looked stretched, like it didn't fit right. I stumbled back another step, my heart pounding. Are you hurt? I asked, my voice shaking now. She didn't respond, didn't move, just stood there again, perfectly still, like before, like nothing had happened. I backed away slowly, my eyes locked on her. Every instinct was screaming at me now. Get back in the truck. Leave. Don't look back. I turned and hurried toward the driver's side. My hands felt clumsy as I grabbed the door and pulled it open. I climbed in, slammed it shut, and locked it immediately. The cab felt smaller now, tighter, like the walls had moved in while I was outside. I looked up, and my heart dropped. She hadn't moved, still standing there, facing away, exactly where I left her. I let out a shaky breath and reached for the ignition. The engine roared to life. For a second, I felt something close to relief. I put the truck in gear, pressed the gas, and started to pull away. Then, the radio crackled. I froze. Slowly, I turned my head toward it. Static twisted into her voice. Soft, close, too close. You didn't ask what happened to my car. My throat went dry. I didn't answer. I can show you, she whispered. A long pause. Then, but you have to turn around. I stared at the empty road ahead, my hands tight on the wheel. Every part of me knew I shouldn't, knew I had already gone too far. But something else, something quiet, something patient, sat in the back of my mind, waiting. And for the first time since I stopped, I wasn't sure if leaving was even an option anymore. I thought it would end when I left that road, that if I just kept driving, didn't look back, didn't answer the radio again, whatever that was would stay there, at mile marker 17, waiting for someone else. For a while, it felt like I was right. The rest of that night passed without anything strange. No voices, no static, just the low hum of the engine and the empty stretch of highway. I kept expecting the radio to come alive again. It didn't. By sunrise, I almost convinced myself it had all been exhaustion. Too many hours. Too much silence. Your mind starts filling in gaps when there's nothing around you. That's what I told myself. That's what I needed to believe. I avoided that route the next night. Took a longer one. Added almost an hour to my drive. Didn't matter. I kept thinking about her. The way she stood there. The way she moved just enough to keep me from seeing her face. And that one moment, when I almost did, it stayed with me longer than it should have. Like a memory that didn't belong to me. 3 nights passed. Nothing happened. No calls. No voices. No strange signals. Just road. Just silence. By the 4th night, I made a mistake. I went back. I didn't plan it. Dispatch gave me the route. I didn't question it. I should have. As soon as I saw the first sign for that stretch of highway, something in my chest tightened. I told myself to stay calm. It was just a road. Nothing more. But my hands didn't feel steady on the wheel anymore. They felt ready, like they already knew what was coming. The sky was darker than usual that night. No moon, just a heavy black ceiling pressing down on everything. I kept my eyes forward, didn't look at the shoulder, didn't check the mile markers, just drove. The radio stayed quiet, too quiet. Even the usual chatter from other drivers was gone. It felt like the entire channel had been cleared out, like it was waiting. Then I saw it, mile marker 16. My stomach dropped. I didn't slow down, didn't breathe differently, just kept going. 17 came into view, and before I could stop myself, I looked. She was there, exactly where she had been before. Same spot, same position, facing away from the road. My chest tightened, so hard it almost hurt. I drove past her, didn't slow down, didn't stop, didn't even blink. I told myself that was the right choice. Just keep going, leave it behind. Again, but something felt different this time. Heavier, like I had walked into something that hadn't been there before. The radio clicked. I flinched. Static filled the cab for a second. Then, nothing. No voice. Just that empty sound. I let out a slow breath. Maybe it was over. Maybe she... Daniel. My hands locked on the wheel. The truck drifted slightly before I corrected it. I didn't breathe. Didn't move. The voice hadn't come through the radio. It came from inside the cab. Soft. Clear. Right behind me. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. My heart was pounding too loud in my ears. Too fast. Like it was trying to get out. Daniel, she said again. Slower this time. Like she was testing the way it sounded. I swallowed hard. There was no way she should know my name. I never said it. Not on the radio. Not out loud. Not once. I checked the rear view mirror. Nothing. Just the empty back seat. The same blanket. The same jacket. But something felt wrong. Like the space was occupied, even though I couldn't see anything. Why didn't you stop? She asked. My throat felt dry. I did, I said quietly. My voice sounded small. Weak, even to me. No, she replied. And now she sounded closer. Closer than before. You stopped for a moment. A pause. Then, but you didn't stay. A cold weight settled in my chest. I pressed the gas a little harder. The engine responded, but the road didn't feel like it was moving fast enough, like I was stuck in place. Where are you? I asked. I didn't mean to say it. It just came out. A small mistake. A bigger one than I realized. She didn't answer right away. When she did, her voice came from somewhere new. Not behind me. Not from the radio. From the passenger seat. I'm here. I turned my head slowly. The seat was empty, but the fabric looked pressed, like something was sitting there, just enough to leave an impression. I snapped my eyes back to the road. My breathing got heavier, faster. You shouldn't be here, I said. I never left, she replied. Her voice was calm again. Too calm. You did, I said. You were on the road. I still am. The words didn't make sense, but they felt right, in a way I didn't like. I passed mile marker 18. The pressure in my chest eased slightly, like I had crossed some kind of invisible line. The radio crackled again. This time, I looked at it. The green light flickered, then steadied. Do you remember what I said? She asked. I didn't answer. You hear me now, she continued. A pause. That's why. My grip on the wheel tightened. Why what? I asked. No response. Just silence. Then, you didn't ask about my car. The same words from before, but now they felt heavier, closer, like they meant more than I understood. I don't care about your car, I said. That came out sharper than I expected. For a second, there was nothing. No voice, no sound, just the road. And then, turn around. 2 words. Quiet, but firm. No. I said it without thinking. For the first time since it started, I felt something shift again. Not fear, not confusion. Something else. Like I had pushed back. Like I had taken something small back from whatever this was. The air in the cab changed. Subtle, but real. The pressure eased. Just a little. Then, okay. Her voice was softer now. Almost understanding. A brief calm settled in. I exhaled slowly. Maybe that was it. Maybe all I had to do was refuse. Not engage. Not follow. Just keep going. I focused on the road ahead. Mile marker 19 passed. Then 20. The tension in my chest loosened. The silence felt normal again, for the first time in days. I let myself believe it, just for a second. Then I looked in the rearview mirror, and my stomach dropped. She was standing in the road, right behind the truck. Not far, not fading into the distance. Close, too close, facing away, exactly like before. But now, she was closer than she should have been. Much closer, like she hadn't been left behind, like she had followed. I turned back to the road quickly, my heart racing again. That wasn't possible. I hadn't stopped. I hadn't slowed down. There was no way she could be that close. "Daniel," she said. Her voice came from everywhere now. The radio, the passenger seat, the space behind me. All at once. "You didn't stay." My hands started to shake. "I left," I said. I moved on. A pause. Then, "You brought me with you." The words settled deep. Heavy. Permanent. I didn't respond. I couldn't. Because somewhere in the back of my mind, I started to understand what she meant. The road ahead stretched into darkness. Endless. Empty. But it didn't feel empty anymore. Not really. Because no matter how far I drove, no matter how fast I went, I couldn't shake the feeling that I hadn't left mile marker 17 behind. And when I checked the mirror again, she was still there, standing, waiting, facing away, exactly the same, like she had always been. And now, like she always would be. The call came in before I saw the road. That's what made it feel wrong. I was still parked outside a closed gas station when the radio cracked. Not the usual static. This was sharper, like something forcing its way through. Unit 12, possible single vehicle collision, mile marker 17. The voice wasn't clean. It sounded stretched, like it had traveled too far. I checked the time without thinking. 2:14 a.m. I don't know why that mattered yet, but it did. I picked up my dispatch, repeat. Silence. Just a low hiss. Then the same words again. Exactly the same. Same pauses. Same tone. Like it wasn't a person repeating it. Just the sound itself. Unit 12, possible single vehicle collision, mile marker 17. I felt something settle in my chest. Not fear. Not yet. Just a quiet sense that I had heard this before. Even though I knew I hadn't. "I'm en route," I said. No confirmation came back. That should have been the first sign. But I didn't stop. I pulled out onto the highway. The road was empty. No passing cars. No distant lights. Just my headlights cutting a narrow path through the dark. The farther I drove, the quieter everything got. Even the engine sounded softer, like something was pressing down on the sound. I glanced at the clock again. 2:15. 1 minute had passed. It felt longer. Mile marker 16 came up faster than it should have. I slowed down. My eyes moved to the shoulder before I even reached 17. Nothing. No hazard lights. No broken glass. No movement. Just a long stretch of empty road. I rolled forward slowly. Then I saw the marker. I stopped right beside it. Lights on. Red and blue flooded the road, bouncing off the guardrail and the gravel shoulder. For a moment, it looked like a real scene, like something had happened here. Then the colors settled, and I saw it clearly. There was nothing. No car. No skid marks. No sign that anything had ever touched this road. I sat there for a few seconds, listening, waiting. Nothing came. I stepped out. The air hit me harder than I expected. Cold, but not natural cold. It felt still, heavy, like it didn't want to move. My boots crunched softly as I walked along the shoulder. I kept my flashlight low, scanning the ground. Nothing reflected back. No glass, no metal, no oil. It didn't make sense. Accidents leave something. They always do. "Dispatch," I said, keeping my voice steady. Unit 12 on scene. No visual on vehicle. The radio stayed silent. No reply. I frowned slightly. "Dispatch, do you copy?" Static. That same low hiss. Then nothing. I lowered the mic slowly. That's when I noticed how quiet it really was. No wind, no insects, no distant hum of traffic. Just silence, the kind that presses in on you. I walked a little farther down the shoulder, then a little more. Still nothing. I turned back toward the cruiser. The lights were still flashing, still painting everything in red and blue. But now, it looked different. The shadows felt deeper, longer, like they were stretching in directions they shouldn't. I shook it off. Probably just the angle. I moved toward the hood of the car. That's when I saw something. A small shape near the edge of the light. I stepped closer. Crouched down. A piece of metal. Thin, bent, fresh. I picked it up slowly. It was clean. Too clean. No dirt. No rust. No wear. Like it had just come off something. But there was nothing here. No car to match it. No damage around it. Just this one piece. I turned it in my hand. My chest tightened slightly. Dispatch! I said again, I've got debris now. Possible collision confirmed. This time, there was a response. But it wasn't right. Copy. The voice came through flat. Empty. Like it didn't belong to anyone. I froze for a second. That wasn't my dispatcher. The tone was wrong. Too even. Too still. Dispatch, identify. I said, no answer. Just silence again. I stood up slowly, the metal piece still in my hand. My eyes moved across the road. Everything looked the same, but it didn't feel the same anymore. It felt staged, like I had walked into something already set up. I placed the metal piece on the hood of the cruiser, carefully, like it mattered. Then I stepped back and looked around again. Still nothing. No movement. No sound. Just that same heavy quiet. I checked the time. 2:18. 3 minutes. That's all it had been. It felt longer. Much longer. I got back into the cruiser and sat there. The engine hummed softly. The radio stayed quiet. I told myself it was a false call. Bad signal. Broken transmission. It happens. But something didn't sit right. That voice. That copy. It didn't feel human. I put the car in gear. Started to pull away. And then, the radio cracked again. Sharp. Loud. I froze. Slowly turned my head toward it. The speaker hissed for a second. Then, Unit 12, possible single vehicle collision. Mile marker 17. Same words. Same tone. Same pause. Exactly the same as before. My chest tightened. I looked out at the road ahead, then back at the marker. I hadn't left. I was still there, still at 17. Dispatch, I said quietly. No response. The voice continued, repeating, like it didn't hear me, like it wasn't even aware I was there. I turned the volume knob down. The voice didn't change. It stayed the same. Same level. Same presence. Like it wasn't coming from the radio at all. I switched channels. Still there. Same message. Same loop. My fingers felt colder now. I shut the radio off completely. The sound stopped. Just like that. Silence again. I let out a breath. For a second, I felt relief. Like I had control again. I looked out at the road. Still empty. Still quiet. Nothing moving. Nothing changing. I started driving. Slow at first. Then faster. Mile marker 18 came up. I passed it. Then 19. The feeling in my chest loosened slightly, like I had stepped out of something. I kept going. Didn't look back. Didn't turn the radio on again. After a few minutes, everything felt normal. The road looked normal. The air felt lighter. The silence felt natural. I almost convinced myself it was over. Just a bad signal. Just a strange call. Nothing more. But then I glanced at the clock again. 2:14 a.m. I felt my stomach drop. That wasn't possible. I had been out there for several minutes. I had checked the time. I knew it had moved. But now, it was back, exactly where it started. I slowed the cruiser without thinking. My eyes drifted back to the road behind me. And for a second, I thought about turning around. Going back to mile marker 17. Just to check. Just to prove to myself that it was empty. That nothing was there. But something stopped me. Something quiet. Something deep. Because a new thought had started to form. Slow, uncomfortable. What if the crash wasn't gone? What if it wasn't missing? What if I just hadn't arrived at the right moment yet? The debris wasn't there when I came back. That's the part that didn't make sense. I reached mile marker 17 again the next night. Same time, same road, same empty stretch. And it was clean. Completely clean. No metal. No glass. No rubber. Nothing. Like I had imagined all of it. I slowed the cruiser without meaning to. My headlights swept across the shoulder, searching for something familiar. Something to prove I wasn't losing it. There was nothing to find. I checked the time. 2:13 a.m. My chest tightened. I already knew what was about to happen. Right on cue, the radio cracked. Unit 12, possible single vehicle collision. Mile marker 17. Same voice. Same tone. Same pause. I didn't answer. I just stared at the road. Because now I had a question I didn't have before. If the debris was real, then where did it go? And if it wasn't real, then what did I pick up? I'm en route. I said anyway. My voice sounded distant, like it didn't belong to me. I rolled forward slowly, crossing into 17 again. Lights on. The red and blue spread across the road like before. Everything looked exactly the same. And that was the problem. Too exact. Too perfect. I stepped out. The air felt heavy again. That same stillness. That same quiet that pressed against your ears. I walked toward the shoulder. Nothing. I moved farther. Still nothing. I stopped where I remembered finding the first piece of metal. Looked down. Just gravel. Smooth. Undisturbed. I crouched anyway. Ran my fingers along the ground. Cold. Empty. No trace of anything ever being there. My chest tightened a little more. Dispatch, I said quietly. Unit 12 on scene. No vehicle. No debris. The radio stayed silent. I lowered it slowly. That wasn't normal. They always responded, even if it was just a copy. I looked back at the cruiser. The lights kept flashing. Same rhythm. Same color. But something about it fell off now. Like it wasn't lighting the road properly. Like parts of the darkness weren't reacting to it. I stood up slowly, turned in a slow circle. Nothing moved. Nothing changed. But I could feel it again. That presence, just outside the edge of what I could see. I shook my head. Focused. This wasn't real. It couldn't be. I checked the time again. 2:16 a.m. 3 minutes had passed. Same as before. I walked back toward the cruiser. Each step felt heavier than the last. Like I wasn't supposed to leave that spot. Like something wanted me to stay. I ignored it. Got back inside. Closed the door. For a second, I just sat there. Hands on the wheel. Breathing slowly. Trying to steady myself. Then I looked at the hood. The spot where I had left the metal piece. Empty. Of course it was empty. Because nothing had ever been there. Right? I turned the key slightly. The engine responded. Normal. Real. That helped. A little. I was about to pull away when something caught my eye. On the ground. Just at the edge of the headlights. I froze. Leaned forward slightly. There it was. A small piece of glass. Shining faintly under the light. My heart started to pick up. It hadn't been there before. I was sure of that. I stepped out again. Slower this time. More careful. Like I was approaching something that might react. I walked toward it. Each step felt louder. Too loud. I crouched down. Reached out. My fingers hovered over it for a second. Then I picked it up. Cold. Sharp edge. Fresh. Just like before. My chest tightened again. This wasn't possible. I had just searched this area. There was nothing here. And now, it was back. Dispatch! I said, my voice lower now. I've got debris again. Silence. No reply. I swallowed. Looked around again. Still no car. No sound. No movement. Just this one piece. Like something was starting slowly, piece by piece. I stood up and looked farther down the shoulder. And then I saw another one. A strip of rubber. Half buried in the gravel. I hadn't seen it before. I walked over to it. Picked it up. Same thing. Fresh. Undamaged by time. Like it had just been torn loose. My breathing got heavier. I turned in a slow circle. Now I was looking for more, and I found it. Another piece, and another. Small things, scattered just enough to suggest something bigger. But still, no car, no crash, no source, just fragments. Appearing, I felt a strange thought form in my head. What if this wasn't debris left behind? What if this was debris arriving? I stepped back slowly. The pieces didn't move, didn't change, but I couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't finished appearing. Like something was building itself in front of me. I checked the time again. 2:18, same as before. Same exact time window. I backed toward the cruiser. Didn't turn my back this time. Kept my eyes on the ground, on the pieces, making sure they stayed where they were. I got back inside, closed the door, locked it. My hands felt colder now. I placed the pieces on the passenger seat, one by one. Metal, glass, rubber, proof, something real, something I could take with me. I started the engine again. This time, I didn't wait. I pulled away, faster than before. The lights cut across the debris as I passed. For a second, I thought I saw more of it, further down the road, like the scene was spreading. But I didn't slow down, didn't stop. I just kept driving. Mile marker 18, then 19. The weight in my chest started to ease again, like I was leaving it behind. I glanced at the passenger seat. The pieces were still there. That helped. That meant it was real. I wasn't imagining it. I drove for another few minutes. Let the silence settle again. Let my breathing slow. Then I looked back down. The seat was empty. All of it gone. No sound. No movement. No sign it had ever been there. I slammed the brakes, slightly without thinking. The truck jolted. I stared at the seat. Nothing. I reached out, ran my hand across the fabric. Flat, undisturbed, like I had never placed anything there. My chest tightened hard. That wasn't possible. I picked them up. I felt them. They were real, but now they were gone. I slowly lifted my head, looked back at the road behind me, and for a second, I thought I saw something in the distance, right around where mile marker 17 would be, a faint shape, low to the ground, like something sitting in the middle of the road. But before I could focus on it, it disappeared. Gone. Just darkness again. I sat there frozen, the engine idling beneath me, and one thought settled in, heavier than anything else so far. The crash wasn't missing. It wasn't gone. It was happening, piece by piece. And somehow, I was only seeing the parts that hadn't fully arrived yet. The recordings didn't match what I heard. That's what finally broke something in me. Up until then, I could still explain things. Bad signal, stress, long hours. Your brain can twist things when you're alone long enough. But recordings don't lie. At least, they're not supposed to. It started after the 5th night. Same call, same time, same mile marker, same empty road, and more debris, always more, but never a car, never a driver, just pieces showing up like something was being built in slow motion. I stopped reporting it the normal way. Dispatch didn't care anyway. Every time I called it in, I got the same response. Copy. Nothing else. No questions. No unit sent. No follow-up. Like they already knew what I would find. Or worse, like they didn't want to know. So I did something I wasn't supposed to do. I requested the call logs. Official reason. I said I needed them for a pattern report. That wasn't a lie, just not the full truth. The clerk didn't ask questions, just handed over the recordings from the last few nights. I took them back to the station. Sat alone in the small break room. Lights low, computer humming softly. For a second, I just stared at the screen. Part of me didn't want to press play, because once I did, I couldn't pretend anymore. I clicked it anyway. The first recording loaded. Timestamp, 2:14 a.m. Exactly what I expected. I leaned back slightly, waited. Static filled the speakers. Then, Unit 12, possible single vehicle collision, mile marker 17. I exhaled slowly. Same message, same voice, same loop, nothing strange. Just like I heard it in the car. I almost felt relieved. Maybe this was all it was. Just a broken transmission repeating itself. Then I noticed something. Faint, under the main voice. Another sound. I leaned forward, turned the volume up slightly, listened again. The message repeated. Same words, same tone, but underneath it, there was something else. Another voice, quieter, distorted, like it was buried behind the main signal. I paused the recording, rewound it, played it again, focused this time. The main voice came through first. Clear, Unit 12, possible single vehicle collision. And then, just under it, help me? My chest tightened. I froze, replayed it again. There it was, faint, but clear enough. A second voice. Not dispatch, not the system. Someone else. Help me? I felt a cold weight settle in my stomach. That hadn't come through the radio in my car. I was sure of that. I would have heard it. I turned the volume up more. Played it again. Now that I knew it was there, I could hear more. Not just one voice. Multiple. Faint. Layered. All saying different things. Can't move. It hurts. Please. I leaned back slowly. My hands felt cold. This wasn't interference. This wasn't static. These were voices. Real voices. Hidden under the call. I clicked the next recording. Same timestamp. 2:14 a.m. Same message. Same loop. But this time, I listened deeper. The main voice spoke again. Unit 12, possible single vehicle collision. And underneath, don't leave. He didn't stop. I'm still here. My chest tightened harder. Those words felt familiar. Too familiar. I had heard something like that before. Not on the recordings. On the road. A thought slipped into my head. Quiet. Unwelcome. What if these weren't separate voices? What if they were all part of the same moment? I shook it off. Clicked the next file. This one was from the night I first found the metal piece. I leaned closer. Press play. Static. Then the message. Same as always. But the voices underneath were louder. Clearer. It's coming. It didn't stop. Why didn't he stop? I stopped breathing for a second. That last one. That one felt too close. Too specific. I rewound it. Played it again. Why didn't he stop? My throat went dry. That wasn't just a random voice. That felt directed, like it was about me. I sat back slowly. My mind started connecting things I didn't want it to. The debris, appearing piece by piece. The missing car, the repeated call, the time resetting. And now, voices, hidden under the signal, like something was trapped inside it, trying to get through. I checked the timestamp again. 2:14 a.m. Every single recording. Same time, same start, same loop, but the voices, they changed. Each night, they were clearer, stronger, like they were getting closer, or like I clicked the last recording, the most recent one, the one from last night. I hesitated for a second, then pressed play. Static filled the room, louder this time, heavier, then the main voice. Unit 12, possible single vehicle collision, mile marker 17. But it sounded different now, not as clean, like it was breaking down. And underneath, the voices weren't faint anymore. They were clear, too clear. You saw me, you left me, you didn't stay. My chest tightened. I leaned closer to the screen. The sound grew louder, more layered, more voices joining in. We're still here. It hasn't ended. Come back. I reached for the volume, but my hand stopped halfway because something else came through. A new voice. Clear, close, not buried, right on top of everything. Daniel. My heart slammed in my chest. I froze. The room felt colder. That was my name. There was no way that should be in the recording. I never said it over the radio. Not once. I didn't move, didn't breathe. The recording continued. Daniel, you didn't stop. The voice was calm, familiar, and I realized why. It was hers. The woman from the road. The one who never turned around. My chest tightened painfully. No! I whispered, but the recording didn't care. It kept playing. You hear us now. More voices layered behind her. You're a part of it. You're here with us? I slammed the stop button. The room went silent, but the silence didn't feel empty. It felt full, like something was still there, listening, waiting. I stared at the screen. My reflection stared back, but for a second, it didn't look right, like there was something behind me. I turned quickly. Nothing, just the empty room, the dim light, the quiet hum of the computer. I let out a slow breath, tried to steady myself. This wasn't real. It couldn't be, but the recordings were. I had heard them. I had proof. And that was worse, because now I couldn't ignore it. I couldn't pretend it was just in my head. I looked back at the screen, at the frozen timestamp, 2:14 a.m. A thought settled in slowly. Heavy, unavoidable. The crash wasn't just repeating on the road. It was repeating in the call, in the signal, in the voices, like it was stuck, looping, trying to finish something it never could. And somehow, I had become part of it. I shut the system down. The screen went dark. The room fell quiet again. But as I stood there, I noticed something that made my stomach drop. From somewhere, very faint, barely there, I could still hear it. Unit 12, I froze. The computer was off. The speakers were dead. There was nothing that should be making sound. But it was still there. Soft, distant, possible single vehicle collision. I didn't move. Didn't breathe, because now it wasn't coming from the recording anymore. It was coming from somewhere else, somewhere closer. Mile marker 17, and for the first time, I realized something I hadn't allowed myself to think before. The radio wasn't picking up the call. The recordings weren't capturing the voices. It was the other way around. The call was trying to reach me, and it finally knew how. It didn't feel like a realization. It felt like something closing, like a door I didn't see, finally shutting behind me. I went back anyway. That's the part one can't explain. After the recordings, after hearing my name, after understanding that whatever was happening wasn't just on the road anymore. I still got in the cruiser that night, still followed the same route, still watched the clock. 2:13 a.m. My hands were already tight on the wheel. Not nervous, not shaking, just ready. Like my body knew what was coming before my mind could catch up. The road looked the same. It always did. Long, empty, quiet. But now it felt smaller. Like it wasn't stretching forward anymore. Like it was folding in on itself. I didn't turn the radio on. Didn't need to. I already knew what it would say. I watched the clock instead. 2:14. Right on time. The sound came anyway. Not from the radio. From everywhere. Unit 12? Possible single vehicle collision. Mile marker 17. My chest tightened slowly. The voice wasn't just around me. It was inside the cab. Inside the air. Like it didn't need a speaker anymore. I didn't respond. Didn't reach for anything. I just kept driving. Mile marker 16 passed. The feeling started. That same pressure. Like I was stepping into something already in motion. And then I slowed. Not by choice. My foot just eased off. The cruiser rolled forward gently, like it knew where to stop. I didn't turn on the lights this time. Didn't reach for the door. I just sat there, looking out at the shoulder, waiting. At first, nothing, just the empty road. Then, something shifted. Not a sound, not movement, just presence. And slowly, very slowly, something began to appear. A shape, low to the ground, right in front of me. My breath caught. It wasn't there before. I knew it wasn't, but now it was. A piece of metal, bent, familiar. I had seen it before, picked it up before, lost it before. Now it was back, right where it should have been. I didn't move. I just watched. Another piece appeared, glass this time, shining faintly under the headlights. Then rubber, then more, each one forming in place. Not falling, not rolling in, just appearing, like the moment was rebuilding itself. My heart started to pound, slow, heavy, because now I understood something I hadn't before. This wasn't random. This wasn't a loop I was watching. This was a loop completing, and I was standing inside it. The radio voice came again, closer, clearer. Unit 12 on scene. I froze. That wasn't dispatch. That was my voice, my exact tone, my exact words. From the first night, I felt a cold wave move through me. No, I whispered, but it kept going. No vehicle in sight. The words echoed around me, not from memory, not from inside my head, from outside, like the road itself was repeating me, replaying me. I gripped the wheel tighter. This isn't happening, I said. But even as I said it, I heard something else. Another voice, faint, behind me. You're here now. I didn't turn around. I couldn't, because I already knew. I wasn't alone in the cruiser anymore. The air felt heavier, like something was sitting in the back seat, watching, listening, waiting. I stared forward, at the debris, at the road, and then I saw it, further ahead, just past the edge of the light. A shape, larger this time, not a fragment, not a piece, something whole, something forming. My chest tightened hard. It looked like a car, not fully there, not solid, but enough to recognize. The outline, the frame, like a memory trying to become real. I felt my breath shorten. This was it. This was the part one had never seen. The part that hadn't finished yet. Until now, the voices started to build, layering over each other. Don't leave. Stay. You saw us. You didn't stop. My hands started to shake, not from fear, from understanding, because one voice cut through all the others. Clear, close, right next to me, Daniel. I turned this time, slowly, against every instinct I had. The passenger seat looked empty, but it wasn't. The fabric was pressed down, like something was sitting there, facing me. I couldn't see her face, but I didn't need to. I knew it was her, the woman from the road, the one who never turned around. You came back, she said softly. My throat went dry. I didn't have a choice, I replied. And the moment I said it, I realized it was true. She tilted her head slightly. I couldn't see it, but I felt it. You do, she said. A pause. Then, you just didn't take it. The words settled deep, heavy, permanent. I looked back at the road, at the forming car, at the debris filling in around it, piece by piece, moment by moment. And then I saw a movement. Inside the shape, a figure, driver's seat, slumped forward. Still, my chest tightened painfully, because I knew what came next. I had heard it, in the recordings, in the voices. I had arrived before it happened every time. But now I was here at the right moment, or the wrong one. The sound came first, a low screech, metal against metal. Then, impact. It wasn't loud, not like it should have been. It was dull, heavy, like it was happening underwater. The car fully formed for a second, solid, real. Then it broke apart. Glass, metal, rubber, exploding outward, scattering across the road. The same debris, the same pieces, the same scene. And then it was gone, just like before. Everything disappeared. The road went empty again, silent, still, like nothing had happened. My chest rose and fell slowly. I didn't move, didn't speak, because now I understood. I wasn't responding to the crash. I wasn't witnessing it. I was part of it. The radio voice came one last time. Clear, final. Unit 12, possible single vehicle collision. Mile marker 17. I closed my eyes, just for a second, then opened them again. The clock on the dash read 2:13 a.m. My hands were already on the wheel. The road stretched ahead, empty, familiar, and in the distance, mile marker 16. I felt something settle inside me. Not fear, not confusion, acceptance, because I knew what was coming next. I had already lived it, and as the seconds ticked forward, I realized the worst part wasn't the loot. It wasn't the voices. It wasn't even the crash. It was this. No matter how many times it happened, no matter how clearly I understood it, when 2:14 came again, I would still answer the call. I remember the hum first. Not the road, not the engine. I hadn't been moving for hours. Just a low, steady hum coming from somewhere up ahead. My headlights barely cut through the fog curling along the asphalt, and the radio had gone silent 30 miles back. Nothing. Not a whisper of another car, not a soul. Then I saw it. A station. Small, squat, tucked against a tree like it had always belonged there. But the thing was, it was lit. All of it. Warm white light spilling across the empty lot. Shimmering in the mist. The doors were locked, windows dusty, shelves empty. Or at least, that's what I assumed. I hadn't gotten close enough yet. I parked without thinking, my fingers trembling as they dug into the wheel. There was a smell faint like burned sugar and old coffee, and it shouldn't have been there. It shouldn't exist at all. I pressed my forehead against the glass. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Everything inside looked untouched, arranged neatly like someone had left in a hurry, or was still here. I tried the handle. Locked. Not surprising. But then I noticed movement. Across the counter. A figure. Barely more than a shadow at first. Just a blur of motion. I stepped back. The hairs on my neck pricked. It didn't turn to look at me. Didn't even pause. I could feel its eyes on me, though I knew it. Somehow, I circled the building, trying to find another way in. There was a back door, slightly ajar. Light leaked through the gap, flickering against the wet pavement. I approached cautiously, hand raised, breathing shallow. Every step felt like walking through syrup. My mind kept racing, repeating the same question. Why is this place lit? Who or what is inside? Inside, the air was warm. Too warm for a place abandoned decades ago. Dust motes floated in the golden light, dancing in the same rhythm as the hum outside. Behind the counter, there was nothing. No shadow. No sign anyone had been there. And yet, I felt it. That same weight pressing down on my chest. I could hear whispers, faint, curling just beyond comprehension. Not over the radio. Not even in the world I knew. I found a small office tucked behind the shelves. Paper stacked neatly. A ledger open to a page filled with names I didn't recognize. But then I saw mine. Written in neat, looping script, ink still fresh. My name. Not printed, not typed. Handwritten alive. My pulse spiked. I stumbled back, knocking over a chair. The sound echoed, swallowed by the hum. No one answered. There was a back hallway, narrow and dim, lined with doors. I tried one. Empty. Another. Empty. Then the last. The door creaked open, and I froze. In the center of the room, a chair faced the wall. On it, a coat, draped like someone had just stepped away. But the hum shifted. It was louder now, surrounding me, vibrating through my ribs. I realized my own breathing was sinking to it. I wasn't sure I wanted to move anymore. I stepped back into the main room. The counter. Empty. The shadow. Gone. But the ledger had changed. Pages flipped on their own, stopping at a new entry. You shouldn't have come. I laughed, a dry, humorless sound. My hands were shaking, but I felt drawn, magnetized toward that counter, towards something I couldn't see. The light flickered, then stabilized, and then I saw it. Reflection in the glass of the display case. Behind me, someone or something stood, but when I turned, there was no one. Just me. My eyes darted to the door. Locked. Always locked. I backed toward the exit, heart hammering. That hum. It wasn't coming from the building. It was inside me now. Each step closer to the door felt like sinking in sand. And then I heard a whisper, soft, almost comforting. You knew this place would find you. I bolted, pushed on the door with all my weight. It didn't budge. I slammed my shoulder into it. Nothing. The hum was deafening now. My skin tingled, my ears burned. And then silence. Total silence. The lights flickered and went out. I was in darkness. Complete, suffocating darkness. And the hum was gone. I fumbled for my phone. Screen lit up. Nothing. No signal. The station vanished. The lot was empty. Just my car. The fog rolling over the asphalt like nothing had ever been there. I sank into the seat, chest heaving, hands slick with sweat. Did I imagine it? The light? The whispers? The ledger? But then I saw it. On the dashboard, a single page. My handwriting. My name at the top. And beneath it were waiting. I drove Didn't look back. The road stretched empty and silent, but I could still hear the hum in my chest, pulsing like a second heartbeat. I knew it would follow me. Wherever I went, it would follow. I tried to call it out, tried to scream, but the sound never left my throat. Days later, I passed that stretch again. Nothing, just trees, fog, asphalt. But the memory was alive, sharper than reality. I knew the station was waiting for the next traveler, waiting for me to bring it forward. And in some corner of my mind, I realized it wasn't abandoned. Not really. It never had been. Sometimes, when a night is too quiet, I think I can see the lights flicker in the distance. And I wonder if I should go back, or if going back would finally make it mine. I shouldn't think that. I shouldn't even speak it. But the hum is in my blood now, and it will never let me forget. I didn't expect anyone to be there. After all, the station had seemed abandoned for decades, yet lit as if it were alive. I pushed the door open, the bell chiming hollow and oddly muted. The smell hit first, sharp, clean, almost antiseptic, like the air itself had been scrubbed. I swallowed, and the sound echoed strangely in the vast quiet. He was behind the counter. A man, or something that looked like one, mid-30s, dressed in a uniform that should have been outdated by 20 years. His posture was perfect, straight back, hands clasped neatly in front, and he was staring at me, not in a glance, not casually, direct, unwavering, eyes that didn't blink. I froze. Hi, I said, though the sound felt alien, too loud in the quiet room. My car broke down. He didn't answer, just tilted his head slightly, like he was listening to something only he could hear. I swallowed again. My tongue felt heavy. My words caught. Can I use the phone? I tried. Still nothing. Just that silence, that gaze. Something about it made my stomach turn. Not fear exactly, but a slow, sinking unease. The kind that presses on your chest without warning. I moved closer. Footsteps loud against the tile, echoing. The closer I got, the more the light seemed to dim around him. Shadows pooled at the edges of the room. I noticed then, the walls were perfectly clean. No signs of wear. No posters. No dust. It was impossible. Finally, I forced the question out. You work here? His lips moved. Slowly. Quietly. I leaned in, straining. But I couldn't hear him. Not a single word. And then he tilted his head again, almost imperceptibly, and the hairs on my arms stood on end. I realized something terrible. He didn't need to speak. I knew what he was thinking. Not consciously, but somehow the answers were filling my head, unbidden. Where does this station operate? I whispered, trying to make it casual. He reached for a pen on the counter. Not writing, not jotting anything down. Just moving it, rolling it across the polished surface. And as it moved, the floor beneath it seemed to ripple. I blinked, trying to convince myself it was a trick of the light. But the pen's movement didn't stop. And when it reached the edge, it paused, like it was waiting. I asked another question, this one forced, sharp. Who's been here before me? He straightened, the faintest smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. My stomach twisted. The hum in the air shifted, higher now, almost musical. And then, unmistakably, I heard voices, murmurs, whispers, answers I hadn't spoken. They weren't over a speaker. They weren't coming from the radio. They were inside me. I stumbled back, nearly hitting the door. He didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't blink. His presence was solid, yet unreal. I felt like a puppet, strings tightening around my limbs with every second. The hum grew louder, filling my ears, my chest, my head. I wanted to run, but my feet wouldn't obey. I reached for the ledger on the counter, desperate for something, anything, that could anchor me to reason. Names, dates, all of them, familiar, not just familiar, but mine. Every entry mirrored moments of my life I hadn't even thought to record yet. Each line felt like a memory being rewritten, reshaped. I tore my eyes away. The clerk leaned forward slightly. I swear I could feel his thoughts brushing against mine. You can't leave. Not yet. Not until we finish. I stumbled toward the back room, hoping to find a phone, a wall socket, a sign of normalcy. But the door there was gone. Just a wall. Smooth, featureless, impossible. I spun around. The counter stretched further than it should have, longer, bending in ways that made no sense. The tiles below my boots were shifting. Subtly, I realized I was disoriented. The room itself was alive. I tried to speak again. My voice cracked. I just need to call someone. He raised a hand. Not aggressively, not threateningly, but the air around it seemed to thrum, and the voices came again. Clear this time. We're waiting. Always waiting. You should know that. I backed away. My own reflection appeared in the polished counter glass, but it wasn't quite right. My eyes were too wide, my face elongated, and for a heartbeat, I thought I saw the clerk's expression on mine. I blinked. It was gone, but the chill remained. I noticed something else then. The shelves behind him weren't empty. Or maybe they were, but items appeared and disappeared as I looked. A tin can one moment, a stack of old newspapers the next. Every time I blinked, something changed. And every change pulled at my mind, little threads unraveling my sense of time, space, reality. I forced myself forward, inch by inch. Please, just tell me how to leave. No answer. Only the tilt of his head, the hum, the subtle shifting of the walls. And then the ledger flipped open again. Page after page. My name appeared alongside others I didn't recognize. All of them vanished from the world. It seemed, leaving nothing behind but these entries. A clock appeared on the wall. Not the one I had noticed before. New, pristine. And its hands were spinning backward. The room's hum pulsed with each tick. And with each tick, my memories felt thinner, lighter, as if I had been here before, countless times, and the station had been waiting, keeping a tally. I collapsed into a chair, chest heaving. My mind raced, trying to grasp something real. But the clerk simply watched, unblinking, patient, immortal. The hum slowed slightly, almost comforting, but I knew better. Comfort in this place was always a trap. I touched the ledger again. Page turned. My own handwriting appeared, spelling out words I had never written. You will stay. You will not leave. Panic flared, but it was slow, creeping, like frost spreading over a window pane. I realized I couldn't fight. Not yet. Not with him. Not here. Every instinct screamed at me, but my body refused. I understood, suddenly, that I was not just a visitor. I was a participant, an element in a cycle I couldn't yet comprehend. Hours or minutes passed. I lost track. I don't know how long I sat there, trying to measure time, trying to map reality. The clerk didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't blink, but he was changing me subtly, invisibly. Each second in his presence carved away pieces of who I thought I was. Then the lights flickered, the hum shifted, and for a fleeting moment, I thought I could move. I thought I could run. But when I reached the door, it wasn't there. Just wall. Smooth, unyielding, mocking. I sank to the floor, knees drawn to my chest. My mind raced for some strategy, some loophole, some escape. The hum softened, almost gentle, almost welcoming. The clerk leaned forward, closer than he should have been, and I realized the ledger wasn't just a record. It was a guide, and somehow I had become part of it. I forced myself to look at him, unflinching, eyes unblinking, smile faint but knowing. You'll understand soon, his presence said without words. We all do. I didn't understand. Not yet, but I knew I never would. Not fully. And the worst part, the part that made my skin crawl, was that I didn't even know if I wanted to leave. Because somewhere deep in hum, I felt the truth settle. This station wasn't just operating at night. It was alive, watching, learning, and it had been waiting for me. I will never forget the way he looked at me. Still, silent, eternal. The clerk who doesn't blink. And I know now, even as I walk away in daylight, that I am already counted, already part of something I can't explain, something that waits. And when night falls, I will return. I didn't want to look at the screen, but my hands moved anyway, fumbling with a security monitor behind the counter. The grainy images flickered to life, casting pale light across the station's polished tiles. And then I saw myself, not me sitting here now, trembling, unsure. But another me, same coat, same tired eyes, same hesitation at the threshold. Only this one was older or younger. I couldn't tell. The timestamp blinked in the corner. Last week, last month, last year, every frame showing me entering the station, walking past that unblinking clerk, never quite noticing him, never asking questions. I swallowed hard. My stomach rolled. That can't be me, I whispered, even as the images shifted to show more of me, every day, every night, every time I had arrived here. And yet, I didn't remember. How could I? I had never been here before. Not consciously. The clerk watched silently, hands folded, unmoving. But somehow he knew I had seen it. The monitor flickered again, revealing another angle. A hallway I didn't remember. And there I was, walking down it, staring at a door that doesn't exist anymore. My own face reflected curiosity, hesitation, the faintest trace of dread. I backed away, heart hammering. The hum in the air intensified, vibrating through my chest. Each flicker of the security footage seemed to pulse with it, as though the station itself was breathing. The images looped, each version of me moving slightly differently, sometimes slower, sometimes faster, but always arriving here, always entering the station. I whispered, Why can't I remember? No answer, but the clerk shifted just enough, leaning forward slightly, tilting his head, unblinking, watching, knowing. My throat tightened. I realized then the station didn't care about my questions. It cared that I remembered nothing, that I was trapped in a loop I didn't even know I was a part of. I forced myself to focus on the screen again. One frame stood out, my own eyes staring directly at the camera, except they weren't just observing. They were watching me now, through time, through space, warning me. I recoiled. My hands shook, but I couldn't look away. The clerk raised a finger, just once, slow, deliberate, and the monitor zoomed in without my touch, focusing on a corner I hadn't noticed before. A faint shape blurred, a shadow that seemed to follow me in every frame. Not the clerk, not me, something else. Watching, waiting, always there. I tried to step back. The station felt smaller, tighter, walls bending in ways they hadn't before. I could feel my pulse in my ears. Each frame on the monitor replayed memories I hadn't lived, or had I? Every image suggested I had walked these halls countless times, yet I didn't remember a single one. I was both visitor and fixture, stranger and familiar. The hum shifted again, deeper this time. Not just sound, but pressure or vibration. The air thickened. My limbs felt heavier, as if gravity itself had turned against me. The monitor flickered violently, then settled on one frame. My younger self, standing just inside the entrance, mouth open, about to speak. And then nothing. The screen cut to black. I stumbled back, fingers gripping the counter. I can't. My voice trailed off. The clerk didn't move, didn't blink, but the air around him shifted, subtle but undeniable. The station itself was alive. It was aware, and it had been waiting for me, not for the first time, but for all of them. The versions of me I couldn't remember, the versions I had been before. I glanced at the hallway. It stretched impossibly far, shadows pooling at the corners. My reflection shimmered in the polished tiles. More than one reflection, each version of me stepping in slightly different directions. The clerk's unblinking stare followed me, though he hadn't moved an inch. Then a realization hit me, slow and suffocating. I wasn't discovering the station. The station had discovered me. And every previous version of me, they weren't memories. They were echoes, repetitions, proof that I had been here before, over and over, long before I thought I arrived tonight. I sank into a chair, head spinning. Each frame on the monitor whispered fragments of my own past, my own mistakes, my own fears. And the worst part, the part that made my skin crawl, was that I could recognize them. I knew how I had moved, hesitated, glanced at the clerk without speaking. Every action I thought was new was already written, already observed, already cataloged. I touched the monitor, desperate. Perhaps I could find a break in the cycle, a frame where I didn't exist. But there was none. Every image returned to me, again and again, until I couldn't tell where the past ended and the present began. The clerk's hands rested on the counter now, still folded, still unblinking, still perfect, and I understood he wasn't waiting for me. He was waiting for all of me. A small relief washed over me, brief, fleeting, when I noticed one anomaly. One frame with a shadow in the corner wavered, unstable, flickering more than before. Perhaps a crack, perhaps a chance. My chest tightened with hope, but I dared not move too quickly. Every instinct screamed that the station punished movement, that it noticed everything. I leaned closer to the monitor. The frame stabilized. My eyes on the screen, my own eyes, looked at me, and for a moment I felt connected, a bridge between what had been and what was now. But then the shadow sharpened, and I realized something worse. It wasn't waiting for me. It was waiting for them. The versions of me that had already been consumed by the station's loop, and now it was waiting for me to join them. I stumbled back again, trying to steady myself. My breathing became shallow, rapid. I had to leave. I had to step out, escape the cycle. But the clerk remained, impossibly still, impossibly calm. And then I noticed it. The ledger resting on the counter, pages flipping slowly on their own. My name appeared again. Not once, not twice, but over and over, in handwriting I recognized, though I didn't remember writing it. I reached out, trembling, to touch it. A page snapped open to a timestamp I didn't recognize. And there I was, in that very frame, watching myself from years ago, about to enter the station for the first or the 50th time. The words beneath it chilled me. You were here before, and you will be again. I staggered back, heart hammering, my vision blurred. The monitor flickered, showing me stepping into the station, then a younger version of me, then an even younger one, like a cascade of echoes, all converging into the present. And clerk, still watching, still unblinking, still patient. A low hum began in the walls, vibrating through my bones. Each frame on the monitor pulsed with it, each flicker syncing with my heartbeat. I understood then fully that leaving wasn't an option. I had arrived countless times, and each time I had been drawn into the same loop. Each time I had been observed. Each time I had been cataloged. I sank to the floor, pressing my palms to my ears, trying to block it out. But the images followed me, spilling from the monitor into the room, into the tiles, into my mind. And then I realized this wasn't just a station. It was a trap, a machine, a living chronicle of every version of me that had ever existed here. The clerk leaned slightly forward, and the ledger snapped shut. Silence. The hum receded. For a heartbeat, I could breathe. I could feel my heart slow, my mind clear, and I dared hope. But the monitor flickered one last time. And in the grainy image, I saw myself, sitting here, staring at the screen, realizing the truth. And behind me, the clerk's eyes still unblinking. I understood then that escape was meaningless, that I had been here before, that I would be here again, that each time I thought I was discovering the station, I was merely stepping into a cycle I had already walked 100, 1,000 times. And yet, somewhere deep in the corner of my mind, a small thought lingered, a spark, fragile but persistent. Perhaps if I watched closely, if I understood the loop, maybe, just maybe I could change it. The monitor went black. The hum returned, and I knew I would be back. I didn't expect the highway to end so abruptly. One moment I was hauling through open asphalt under a sky bruised purple by dusk. The next, the GPS blinked red and demanded a detour, a forgotten road. It said, barely more than a ribbon between dark trees, the kind of path truckers joke about avoiding. I didn't laugh. I followed it anyway, because options were gone. The headlights barely cut through the shadows. Every twist of the road seemed to stretch longer than the last. Every rustle in the underbrush too deliberate to be just wind. I caught movement once. Something low, sliding between the trees. Could have been a deer, but it felt wrong. Too deliberate, too patient. My pulse hit my throat, but I told myself to stay calm. Just a road, just a detour. Signs disappeared. Mile markers were swallowed by moss and shadow. One moment, there had been an old reflective sign, warning about sharp curves ahead. The next, Nothing but the dark, empty road and the smell of wet earth that seemed to cling to the cab. I checked my mirrors, expecting another car. Nothing, not a single vehicle. It's as if everyone else had vanished, leaving me alone with the sound of my own tires crunching over gravel and fallen leaves. The trees leaned closer as I drove, shadows stretching like fingers across the hood. I thought I saw headlights behind me, far off, then gone. I couldn't shake the feeling I wasn't just being followed. I was being watched. I wanted to turn around, but every attempt to retrace my path led me deeper. Every branch I passed seemed familiar, but unfamiliar at the same time. A sense of deja vu pressed on my chest. Had I been here before? The road narrowed to barely a single lane, lined by crumbling barriers that looked decades old. I slowed, almost stopping when the headlights caught something in the fog. A figure, standing at the edge of the asphalt. I braked, but it wasn't human. Not exactly. Its posture was too rigid, too vertical. It didn't move when I hit the horn, didn't react when I flashed the high beams. It just waited. I forced my eyes on the road ahead and drove past, telling myself it was a mannequin, a roadside scare. Anything but what my gut screamed. My hands gripped the wheel tighter. A faint humming rose in the air, low and rhythmic, like an engine idling in the distance, though no cars were behind me. It stayed just at the edge of hearing, teasing, never approaching. Every turn felt like a repetition. I passed the same gnarly tree leaning over the road, the same broken fence post jutting out at a sharp angle. I started counting the signs, the shadows, the leaves, hoping to measure progress. But they didn't add up. I circled back, without meaning to, the road bending in ways a map couldn't explain. I could have sworn I had driven this stretch 10 minutes ago, or 10 years. Time didn't feel right anymore. Then the debris appeared. Pieces of metal, old crates, a shattered road cone. Nothing recent. Everything corroded, eaten by rust or mold. I slowed, rolled past. By morning, it would all be gone, as if the road itself swallowed the evidence. But now, under the headlights, it was clear, too clear, each object placed deliberately to unnerve me, and with it came the faintest smell of fuel, stale and sour, as if a vehicle had burned here and left its ghost. I wanted to stop, to get out and look. The air outside was heavy with mist, damp and clinging. My instinct screamed no, but curiosity gnawed at me. I told myself I was professional. 10 years driving never scared, yet each heartbeat rattled like a loose bolt in a cab. Something about this place. It didn't obey the rules I knew. It didn't belong to map, to the GPS, to the laws of physics I trusted. Then came the sound, the creak of metal, the whisper of tires against gravel, not under my wheels. I turned sharply, expecting a car to emerge from fog. Nothing, but in my mirror, I saw the road behind me, perfectly empty. I tried to rationalize it. Wind? My imagination? Sleep deprivation? The hum was louder now, wrapping around the cab. I reached for the radio, hoping a station might break the monotony. Static, just static, thick and unyielding. A shadow darted across the road ahead. I slammed the brakes. A crate, nothing more, toppled into the ditch. Relief hit me like cold water. But it didn't last. The road ahead curved sharply, and the trees, they had changed. Gnarled limbs bent into shapes I couldn't have imagined, twisting toward me. I pressed the horn. Nothing, only the mist curling higher, the hum pulsing in rhythm with my heartbeat. Panic made me drive faster. I wanted to escape, but the road refused. Every detour led deeper. Every turn brought me back to familiar debris, the same gnarly tree, the same rusted sign warning of nothing. I realized, stomach twisting, that this wasn't just a detour. It was a trap, a road designed not for passage, but for endurance, for observation. It watched me, measured me, mirrored me. Headlights cut through the fog in front. Another figure? Or just another illusion? I slowed again, heart hammering, eyes straining. The figure was closer now, impossibly so. And yet, when I blinked, it vanished, leaving only the shadows and the creeping sense that I had been here many times before, more than I could remember. I gripped the wheel, knuckles white, telling myself to keep moving, to find the exit that had to exist. The road whispered, unseen, teasing a turn that never arrived. Each mile stretched endlessly, as if reality itself had been pulled tight and warped around me. I tried to speak aloud, to ground myself, but my voice sounded hollow inside the cab, swallowed by the hum in the mist and the trees that leaned closer with every heartbeat. Then I saw the sign, or thought I did, half buried in mud, letters worn beyond recognition, yet it glowed faintly under my headlights. Something about it familiar. I couldn't place it, but the familiarity chilled me. My instinct screamed to turn back. Yet I knew there was no turning back. The road had already claimed me. And that's when I realized I wasn't just traveling a forgotten road. I was becoming part of it. Every swerve, every glance, every heartbeat was recorded by the night. It waited, it collected, and when I thought I had escaped, it whispered, always, to take me back. I drove on, because stopping meant knowing what waited in the fog. And the fog was patient. Headlights cut through the dark like knives, but the shadows clung to the edges, following, waiting. I had been driving for hours, though I wasn't sure if it was hours or minutes. Time felt wrong here. My phone, no signal, not even one bar. I laughed, a hollow sound that bounced back from the trees, but it didn't make me feel better. The road stretched endlessly. Every mile I thought I'd escaped, it twisted ahead of me like it was alive. Trees leaned in from both sides, branches scraping the roof. Sometimes I thought I saw faces in the bark, eyes blinking at me, but I would blink and they would vanish. I tried to focus on the lines of the road, white, then broken, then fading, repeating like some cruel pattern. I remembered a sign once, glinting in the headlights, but when I reached it, it wasn't there. Only black, only the fog curling from the asphalt like smoke. A smell came next, iron, sharp, metallic. My throat clenched. I couldn't tell if it was real or if my mind was unraveling. I tried to ignore it, but it followed me, thick and heavy, coating my tongue. Movement appeared in the fog, a shadow just beyond my headlights, tall, unmoving. I squinted. Gone. I pressed the accelerator, but the road didn't respond the way it should. It didn't curve, it didn't bend. It just stretched, stretching me with it. I checked the glove compartment. Everything inside was soaked, wrappers disintegrated, water pooling where nothing should have been. My phone flickered, briefly showing a blank map. No roads, no towns, no exits, just a straight, endless ribbon. The whispering started then. Faint at first, like the wind brushing against a car, circling me. I told myself it was the trees, the fog, but the whispering didn't stop. It mimicked my breathing. I tried to count the trees, marking each mile, but they repeated, looping back on themselves, taller, darker, closer. I thought I was imagining it until the fog thickened, curling around the tires like it had weight, like it was alive. Another shadow moved, or the same one. I couldn't tell. It stayed at the edge of vision, patient, observing. My pulse pounded. Every mile, every curve, every tree pushed closer, as if the road was drawing me in, folding me into itself. I saw a flicker of neon, maybe a gas station, maybe a mirage. I drove toward it, desperate. Collapsed walls, a hollowed shell of a building. The neon buzzed faintly, letters unrecognizable. I laughed, bitter, because hope itself had become another illusion. The road beneath me began to change. Lines twisted, warped like liquid. The rear-view mirror reflected my face, pale and hollow, smiling faintly, but I was the only one in the car, or so I thought. Hours, or some impossible fraction of days, passed. I realized the road would never end. The fog, the trees, the whispering, they weren't threats. They were guides, showing me what I'd always been running from. My fear, my mind, myself. I stopped, but the road didn't stop. My car's door handle disappeared beneath asphalt. I was trapped, and still, the road stretched, waiting for me to see what came next. What that was, I didn't know. Not yet. The headlights reflected off wet asphalt, and I could see it. Another vehicle far behind, but following. I blinked again. It hadn't moved closer. Or maybe it had, in a way I couldn't measure. I tried to pass it, pressed the accelerator, heart hammering. The truck mirrored my every move, a ghost refusing to overtake. Its taillights glowed like embers, patient, watching, taunting. I took the next turn, sharp, hoping to shake it. Nothing. It followed, unwavering. I imagined a driver, a face, a reason, but when I glanced back, there was only the red glow. No one inside. Or maybe someone was there, invisible, smiling. The road stretched like before, endless. Fog wrapped around both of us. I felt a pressure in the chest, the whispering returning, only this time, mingling with the engine's low growl, echoing in my skull. I thought about stopping, stepping out, facing whatever it was. But the moment I slowed, the truck's light stayed, inching closer but never arriving. The asphalt seemed to bend beneath its wheels, swallowing distance, defying physics. I tried the radio again. Static, high-pitched now, slicing the nerves. And then a voice, mine, distorted, faint, whispering, "You can't escape." I slammed the dial off. Heart racing, breath shaking. The truck followed, always there, always patient. I counted the miles, or at least I tried. They repeated, curves, shadows, trees, endless, unbroken. I tried to shake the thought that I'd been here before, that I'd passed this truck countless times already, but it felt impossible to measure. Then a sound, tires scraping gravel? The truck? No, it wasn't on the road. It was behind the car, hovering closer than it should be. But when I checked mirrors, nothing. Only the road, only fog. I pressed on, the whispering louder, and I realized the road had changed again. The markings melted under my tires, curving impossibly. The trees bent over the car, branches like arms reaching, shaking with intent. The truck stayed behind, waiting, ever patient, like a shadow of inevitability. The idea hit me suddenly. I might never leave. The road, the fog, the truck, they were the same trap, different forms, same end. My pulse pounded in my ears, but I couldn't stop. I had to keep moving. Or maybe I'd cease to exist at all. Every glance in the rear view mirror was a horror. Red glow, shadows, sometimes a figure crouched, barely visible, then gone. My reflection no longer resembled me. Hollow eyes, drawn skin, a silent scream frozen in time. Hours passed, or maybe days. I stopped counting. I pressed my hands to the wheel, knuckles white, body shaking. And the truck stayed, glowing behind me, never overtaking, never letting go. The road curved slightly, a rare break in its monotony. I thought I might finally pass something, a sign, a town, a clue, but the asphalt swallowed everything. No sign, no road, only this relentless stretch and the truck waiting, watching, patient. I realized something I didn't want to admit. I didn't just feel hunted. I felt part of the road itself, as if the asphalt, the fog, the shadows, and the truck were one. All of it connected to me, moving me forward, reshaping me into something else. And still, the truck followed, red eyes and fog, echoing the shape of inevitability. I didn't know how long I could keep driving, or if I even wanted to, but the truck would never leave, and the road would never end. I blinked, and the headlights illuminated the same trees, same asphalt, same fog curling around the wheels. I realized then, the road hadn't ended. It had never ended. Hours? Days? I couldn't tell anymore. My scratches on the dashboard vanished. My coffee gone cold. My reflection, hollow waiting. The truck? Gone. Or maybe still there, just out of sight, a red glow buried in shadow. I tried to turn. Left. Right. Every exit I remembered, or thought I remembered, disappeared. The road looped back, folding on itself, mocking me. I was still driving, still trapped, still alone, or not. Shadows moved at the corner of my vision. Faces, limbs, shapes I couldn't name. I told myself it was imagination, but the whispering persisted, circling the car, patient, deliberate. It knew I was awake. It knew I was listening. I reached for the radio. Static, my own distorted voice whispered through it, echoing a warning. You never left. My hand shook. I wanted to scream. I tried. My voice came out thin, fragile, swallowed by the fog. I pressed the accelerator. The road bent impossibly. Curves that should have been impossible unfolded in front of me. Trees arched overhead, branches scraping the roof, forming tunnels I couldn't escape. The asphalt shimmered beneath me, breathing, alive, aware. I realized I was becoming part of it, my fear feeding it, my despair shaping it. And maybe that's why the road had never ended, because I had never really left. Not my mind, not my body, not this endless trap. I thought about stopping again. Maybe if I stopped, I could escape. But the asphalt met the tires like a wall. I was trapped in movement, forced to continue, forced to confront whatever waited at the horizon I could never reach. A brief calm washed over me. I thought I saw the end of the road, a faint glimmer, a hint of sky. Relief. Then the road twisted, and I realized the horizon had always been just out of reach. Every mile, every shadow, every whisper was part of the same loop. I had never left, and I never would. The headlights flickered. The fog thinned briefly. I glimpsed a figure in the trees, tall, still, watching. It didn't move. It didn't blink. It waited, and I understood, finally. The road, the shadows, the whispers, they weren't outside me. They were me. I pressed the accelerator again, and the road stretched on, forever. I first heard it just after midnight. The phone rang. Not the office line, not the radio. Just a payphone on the side of Route 17, abandoned for years. Its cord frayed, the metal cold, and yet somehow it called me. The dispatcher's room was quiet, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. My fingers hovered over the console. The call came in a single click, then silence. I checked the line. Hang up. Just that. Nothing. My stomach tightened. I had answered these calls before. Missed dials, pranks, someone testing the old system. But this felt different. I dialed back automatically like muscle memory. Click. Silence. I listened. Nothing. The room seemed smaller, the walls pressing in. My reflection in the glass window of the console flickered. I imagined eyes watching me from the dark corners of the office. The phone rang again. Fast. Sharp. I jumped. My coffee cup rattled against the desk. I stared at the screen. Abandoned payphone, unknown location. No code, no signal. Just that familiar, hollow ring. I picked up. Silence. Then breathing. Not a person's slow exhale, but something heavy, wet, deliberate. Too close. Too slow. I swallowed hard. Hello. My voice cracked. The breathing stopped. The line went dead. I leaned back in my chair, trying to convince myself it was a prank. Someone testing the payphone. Someone messing with me. But the number came again. Same call. Same hang-up. Same silence. I walked the window. Outside, the parking lot was empty. Fog curling in faint tendrils over the asphalt. Streetlights flickered. Shadows bending unnaturally. Something was out there. Something waiting. The third call came and I didn't pick up. I watched the line flash, waiting, counting seconds. Then it stopped. My chest loosened. Relief. Brief. Because then I noticed a static on the console. Low, buzzing, whispering. It wasn't electrical interference. It was voice, faint, broken, almost a hiss. Help. I froze. My pulse hit my ears. I picked up the handset again. Nothing. I dialed the payphone one more time. Click. Silence. But then something shifted. The line vibrated slightly, almost like a heartbeat. I leaned closer. A sound emerged, a whisper, distant but growing. Words I couldn't understand, or maybe didn't want to. I leaned back, but the sound followed, wrapping around the room, curling through the vents, brushing my skin like cold fingers. I tried logging it as a malfunction, a prank call, anything. My training screamed at me to stay calm. But calm wasn't a thing anymore, not when the breathing returned. Low, wet, deliberate, closer, behind me, in the darkened corner of the office. I felt it watching. I spun around. Empty. Just a buzzing console. The faint hum of fluorescent lights in the phone, glowing faintly. I picked it up again. Hello. The breathing stopped. Silence. Then a click. Not the usual hang-up. Something else. Heavy. Deliberate. A shift in the air. I felt it before I saw it. a presence, leaning just outside perception, brushing the edge of vision. I turned slowly. Nothing. Or maybe I didn't want to see. I leaned back against the chair, hands shaking, trying to breathe. Then the console flashed. Incoming call. Payphone. Unknown. My stomach sank. I didn't answer. I couldn't. The room felt smaller. Shadows moved when I wasn't looking. Whispers rose, almost articulate. Words I couldn't place. Don't leave, don't leave. I froze. My mind tried to rationalize. Maybe the building was settling, maybe wires humming, maybe fatigued. But the scent hit me next, metallic, coppery, sharp. Not inside me, outside, somewhere close. I didn't move. The phone rang again. Sharp, demanding. I pressed my hand to it instinctively. My reflection in the glass shifted. Eyes hollow, a faint, cruel smile where none should have been. I jerked away. I called it in. Supervisor. Static. We don't see anything. I swallowed hard. Relief and dread mixed. I was alone. Or alone meant something else here. I tried ignoring it, logging it, pretending I hadn't seen the movement, heard the whispers. But every 5 minutes, like clockwork, it rang. Hang up. Breathing. Hiss. Then silence. At some point, I realized I was holding the receiver for hours. Minutes lost shape. Shadows pooled in the corners. Each fluorescent hum sounded like a growl. I couldn't leave. Not yet. Not until the line went dead. I leaned back, closed my eyes. When I opened them, the line flashed again. Payphone. Unknown. My pulse raced. I didn't answer. The room went quiet. But quiet wasn't quiet. I could hear the faintest scraping, like fingernails dragging over metal. From the payphone? Or the walls? The windows? I didn't dare look. The console buzzed, then clicked. Incoming call. Same number. My name whispered over the line. Before I could speak. Not my voice. Something else. Old. Hungry. Patient. I dropped the phone. Heart hammering. Breath shallow. I thought I could leave. I thought I could log it as a prank. But the number flashed again. Incoming. Payphone. Unknown. And I realized the call never ends. It waits. And so do I. I couldn't stop thinking about the line. The payphone, the hang-ups, the whispers. I kept replaying it in my mind. Trying to rationalize, try and make sense. But logic didn't last long that night. Not when the office lights flickered in the fog outside, seemed to curl against the glass, reaching toward me. I stared at the console. The same number flashed. I dialed it back, fingers trembling. Click. Silence. And then breathing. Heavy, wet, slow, deliberate. I froze. It wasn't the ragged panting of a human. Not quite. It was too rhythmic, too measured. Like something waiting, just beyond hearing, just beyond sight. My pulse hammered in my ears. I whispered, "Hello?" The breathing stopped. A long pause and then a whisper. Not my name. Not words I understood, just a hiss curling into my brain, curling under my skin. I jumped, heart racing. The line went dead. I leaned back, shaking. I tried to tell myself it was fatigue, stress, something mundane. But the smell came first, sharp metallic. Copper and rust clinging to the air. I couldn't move. Then the console buzzed again. Incoming call. Same payphone. Same unknown. I didn't pick it up. My hands hovered over the receiver. The line clicked and the breathing returned. Closer, louder, more deliberate. I could feel in the room now, not just through the line. Something leaned into the edges of the office, pressing against shadows. My eyes darted, but everything stayed still. Or maybe I didn't want to see. I tried the intercom. Is anyone? Nothing. Only static. Only that slow, wet exhale vibrating the air, filling my skull. I grabbed the phone anyway. My fingers trembled. Hello? My voice cracked. The breathing stopped. Then came a whisper, so low I could barely hear it. I'm here. The words weren't spoken. They weren't formed by lips. They came from somewhere deeper, like they had always existed behind the walls, behind the glass, behind my bones. I dropped the phone. The console lit up again. Incoming call. Payphone. Unknown. My heart felt hollow, as if the air around it had been sucked away. I didn't answer, but the line clicked, and then the breathing. Closer. Right there. Behind me. My chair squeaked as I turned slowly. Nothing. Just shadows pooling under fluorescent lights. I told myself it was imagination. Told myself to breathe. Told myself this was a job, a building, a number, a prank. But the whispers returned, curling around my ears. Pick up, pick up, pick up. I couldn't move. I couldn't look away. My reflection in the glass seemed wrong. Eyes too wide, pupils dilated, skin pale, mouth moving slightly even when I wasn't speaking. I shook my head. Focus, focus. I grabbed the receiver again. Click. The breathing returned. But now it wasn't just breathing. Something else lingered. A presence. Heavy. Watching. Waiting. Pressing against the boundaries of the room. My blood ran cold. I tried to dial coworker. Static. Buzzing. Then faint laughter. Not a laugh of amusement, but something guttural, animalistic, hollow. Somewhere between a human and not. I slammed the receiver down. My hands shook violently. I leaned back in chair. I could hear it now, even when the phone wasn't ringing. Scraping, dragging, breathing. It had filled the room, pressed itself into the corners, seeped into the air vents. I wanted to leave. I wanted to step out, call someone, anything, but my legs felt like lead. The office had shrunk, walls pressed in. Shadows bent toward me, moving slightly when I blinked. Another click, another call, same number. Payphone, unknown. I picked it up. My fingers were ice, my breath shallow. Hello. This time, the breathing didn't stop. It layered, heavy and wet, coming from somewhere far, but inside the room at the same time. I felt it against my neck, a cold brush, a pressure pushing down. I swallowed hard, trying not to scream. Who is this? My voice shook. A pause, then a whisper, distorted, almost playful. Do you hear me? I could barely nod. My eyes stung. The room had gone quiet, but only in comparison. My blood pulsed in my ears. The line clicked again. Breathing, sharper, rasping, filling the space around me in my head. I stumbled backward, hitting the desk. The console lights flickered. My reflection blinked even when I didn't. The line buzzed faintly. Pick up, don't hang up. I wanted to scream. My chair tipped. I fell. The phone bounced from my hand, clattering across the floor. My hand scrambled to the receiver. The breathing pressed closer, louder. A whisper. I'm here, always here. I dared to glance at the window. Fog was thick now, curling inside like smoke, pooling near the floor. I couldn't see outside. Or maybe outside didn't exist. Just a phone. Just a voice. I tried the office door. Locked. Not physically. Mentally. It didn't open. Or it refused to. The walls seemed to breathe, to push me back. The shadows leaned, bending toward me, patient. I picked up the receiver one last time. My voice was thin, fragile. What do you want? Silence. Then a click. The breathing stopped. But now, I could feel in my chest, my throat, my skull. Waiting. Patient. Unyielding. A note appeared on the console screen. Not typed, not digital. Simply there. Flickering. You called me. I answered. Now it's your turn. I dropped the phone. My breath caught in my throat. The whispers rose around me, soft but insistent, circling, repeating. Your turn, your turn. I backed away, tripping over wires, reaching for the door. The fog thickened, coiling around my legs like fingers. I stumbled, fell again. The console lights dimmed. The whispers grew louder, layering into the slow, wet breathing. Right behind me. I couldn't escape. I didn't want to, and yet I had to. The line rang again, and I answered. The night was cold, the kind that seeps through the seams of a car, through the collar of your jacket, through your bones. I checked my dashboard clock. Midnight exactly, when she appeared, standing on the roadside. Nothing around for miles but the dim glow of a single flickering streetlight. She looked calm, Too calm, head down, hands folded in front of her, staring at the asphalt. No movement, no expression. I slowed the car, pulling over. Her eyes lifted then, just enough to meet mine, and a shiver ran down my spine. She didn't smile, didn't wave, just opened the door and slid in. I cleared my throat. Where to? She whispered an address I didn't recognize. Not on GPS. Not anywhere. I asked again, hoping it was a joke, a street she had renamed herself. Same words. Calm, deliberate, impossible to ignore. I started the engine. The tires crunched on gravel, carrying us into darkness. The highway stretched endlessly. No houses, no signs, nothing. The lights from the car barely reached past the hood. She didn't speak again. I tried small talk, music, anything, but she stayed silent, eyes fixed forward. I caught glimpses of her in the rearview mirror, her reflection calm, almost too perfect. Minutes became longer, hours maybe. The road twisted in ways I didn't recognize. GPS kept recalculating. Panic clawed at my chest, but I tried to stay calm. She shifted slightly, a movement too quick to notice at first. I blinked. She was closer, not moving physically, but somehow nearer. Then she spoke. Turn here. Her voice soft, steady, commanding. I glanced at the map. Nothing. Just black road ahead, no intersections. I paused. She leaned forward, almost imperceptibly, eyes fixed on mine. Turn. I obeyed. Tires screeched. The car entered a narrow lane, edges broken, weeds crawling onto asphalt. My headlights barely cut through the fog now, thick and rolling, almost alive. I wanted to ask her where we were, but the words stuck in my throat. A faint sound reached me, whispers, footsteps. I checked behind. Empty, just her calm face. Too close now, her eyes watching my every move. I swallowed. Something was wrong. I couldn't see it yet, but the hairs on my arm stood up, every nerve screaming. The lane narrowed further. Shadows bent unnaturally, curling around the car. I tried to focus on the road, on breathing, anything normal, but the air felt heavier, sticky, like it wanted me to stop, to surrender. She shifted again, almost a smile, almost human. Soon. I gripped the wheel tighter. The road seemed to stretch forever, curling back on itself. Every turn looked the same. I felt trapped in a loop, a corridor with no exit. Panic rose, but her calm presence anchored me in a terrifying way. I wanted to speak, to protest, but my voice betrayed me, trembling in my throat. Her fingers twitched on the seat beside me. Not touching, just twitching. I glanced. Reflexes screamed danger. Nothing, yet the sensation stayed. A presence, too near, watching, waiting. The car lights flickered. A shape moved along the roadside. I slammed on brakes. Empty, only mist curling in the shadows. My pulse raced. She didn't react. Calm, still, waiting. I wanted her to speak, to move, anything, but the silence was suffocating. Finally, I reached a crossroads that shouldn't exist. I checked the GPS. Still recalculating. Still unknown. She leaned slightly forward, almost imperceptible, whispering, "This is it." I froze, my chest constricted. Her calmness felt wrong. I couldn't place why, but the feeling wasn't human. Something about her quiet, her patience, the way she existed in the car without leaving it. It was impossible wrong. And then the mist thickened. Car lights dimmed. Time stretched. I realized, as my hand shook on the wheel, that I might have picked up more than a passenger tonight. Something old, patient, waiting, and I was driving straight into it. The road ahead was invisible now, swallowed by fog and fear. And she just smiled, almost human, almost patient. She shifted in the back seat. Not much, just enough to remind me she was there. I hadn't spoken since the crossroads. My hands gripped the wheel too tightly, knuckles white. GPS recalculated endlessly. No street matched her directions. None. Slow down, she said softly. Her voice was calm, almost hypnotic. You'll miss it if you hurry. I swallowed hard. Miss what? She didn't answer, just leaned back, eyes forward. Her gaze didn't wander. She didn't blink. She existed in a way that didn't seem natural. Like she belonged to the night, not the car, not me. I tried following her directions. Every turn, every lane she instructed led to darkness, roads that shouldn't exist, intersections that weren't on maps. And yet, somehow I followed because she had that effect. Soft, insistent, impossible to ignore. The air grew colder. My breath fogged the windshield. Shadows pressed close, unnaturally tight, bending along the edges of the road. I caught glimpses of shapes moving just out of sight, but when I blinked, nothing. Only her calm face in the rearview mirror, closer than it should be, watching. Almost there, she said. Her voice made the hairs on my arms rise. I didn't know where we were, but something in her tone made me obey. The road narrowed further. Fog thickened. My headlights barely reached a few feet ahead. Every turn was the same, yet different. The night seemed endless, and I realized I couldn't remember the last landmark. I was lost, not just physically, mentally, emotionally. She leaned forward slightly. Here, stop here. I slammed on brakes. The road was empty, black void beyond the headlights. She looked at me, calm, satisfied. This is my stop. I glanced back at the empty seat beside her, and then she wasn't there. My heart stopped. My pulse pounded in my ears. I turned slowly. Empty seat. Mist curling in the back. No door open. No footsteps. Nothing. But the sense of presence lingered, stronger than ever. Watching. Patient. Waiting. I tried calling her name. My voice sounded small in the vast darkness. Nothing. Silence. Just the fog pressing in. Then a whisper, soft, deliberate, right behind my ear. Don't miss it. I spun. Empty car. Windows fogged. My hands shook. I realized she had never left the car in the first place. Or maybe I had never been able to leave. The console flickered. GPS recalculating endlessly. Directions leading nowhere. My pulse racing, sweat stinging my eyes. I reached for the door. Locked. Not physically, but mentally. Something held me. Something patient. Something eternal. And then I understood. She wasn't just a passenger. She was the road, the fog, the night, the endless, impossible loop I had driven into. I was still moving, still obeying, still following directions that didn't exist, chasing a stop I could never reach. I parked, exhausted, terrified. The ride ended, or so I thought. My passenger never moved. Seat empty, doors locked. Yet I could feel her presence. Behind me, watching. I stepped out. The air was thick with fog, silence pressing against my ears. Nothing stirred. Yet I could hear a faint whisper, familiar, insistent. Still here? I turned to the car. Empty, mist curling inside. The rear seat. It looked like she had just been there, but no one, no body, nothing human. I tried the radio. Static. Faint whispers layered beneath it. The scent of cold metal, copper, rust. Everywhere. I couldn't leave. I couldn't move. Every step forward felt like sinking. And then the rear view mirror, her reflection, calm, patient, smiling, watching, not human, not gone. I realized I had never really left. I had never driven away from her. The road, the night, the endless mist, it followed me inside. She followed me inside. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. But my body betrayed me. Stuck, frozen, waiting. Like the car, like the night, like her. Her presence never left me. Not even after crossroads. I gripped the wheel tighter as she gave directions. Streets not on any map. Roads that twisted impossibly into darkness. Slow down, she whispered. You'll miss it if you hurry. I wanted to ask where we were. I tried. Words caught in my throat. The fog thickened. Shadows bent along the edges of the road. Every turn looked the same. Every landmark disappeared. Almost there, she said. Calm. Too calm. Impossible calm that forced me to obey. The road narrowed further. Headlights barely cut through the fog. A faint whisper curled in my ears. Don't miss it. I slammed on brakes. Empty road. Seat beside me, empty. I turned slowly. Nothing. Mist curling where she had been. Then a voice, soft, deliberate, right behind me. Don't miss it. I realized I had never truly left the car. The directions, the roads, the fog, they were all hers. The ride hadn't ended. And maybe I never could leave. I parked, exhausted, terrified. The ride was over. Or so I thought. The seat behind me was empty, doors closed, but I could feel her, watching, waiting. I stepped out. Fog thickened, pressing against my ears. Silence, except for a whisper curling around me. Still here, I turned to the car. Empty, mist inside. Rear seat looked just like she had been there. Not human, not gone. Presence everywhere. The radio hissed. Static, layered with whispers. The metallic scent, cold coppery, filled the air. I couldn't leave, couldn't move. Every step forward felt like sinking, and then the rear view mirror. Her reflection, calm, patient, smiling, not human, never gone. I understood at last. I had never really left. The road, the night, the endless fog, it had followed me inside, and she followed too. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run, but my body betrayed me. Stuck, frozen, waiting, like the car, like the night, like her, and the fog outside curled closer, patient, endless. I didn't expect the day to start like this. The air smelled like asphalt and rust, a hot metallic tang that made my eyes water. I was crouched by the edge of the half-dug trench. The jackhammers rumbled behind me. When my shovel hit something hard beneath the dirt, not stone, not concrete, something else. I leaned closer, fingers numb, sweat dripping into my eyes. I brushed away the black soil layer by layer until a shape appeared. It was round, smooth like a head, but wrong. The proportions were off, the mouth too wide, the eye sockets empty but aware. I jerked back. Maybe I was tired, maybe sunstroke, or maybe I had just uncovered something that didn't belong. The foreman yelled from the other end, waving for a break. I nodded, heart still hammering, but I couldn't stop looking. Every time I leaned in, the shape seemed different, more defined, like it had waited decades under the highway for someone to notice. I called over one of the guys, just to be sure I wasn't losing it. Hey, come look at this. He crouched, flashlight cutting through the dirt and dust. He froze, just froze, mouth slightly open, eyes wide. And then he laughed, nervously. Just a rock, man. Come on. But it wasn't a rock. My gut screamed it wasn't a rock. I ran my fingers over the edges. Smooth, cold, almost soft. And then the whisper started. Faint at first. A hiss of air, maybe wind through the machinery, or maybe something else. I froze. Nothing moved. Just the soil shifting under my fingers, trembling. I pulled back, my heart thundering in my chest. A shadow passed over the trench. Quick, impossible. The sun was high noon. No trees near. Nothing should have moved. The foreman waved again, impatient now. I forced a nod, trying to act casual. All clear, I said, voice cracking. But my hands were shaking. The object beneath the dirt, it had shifted. Slightly, like it had moved itself. I kept digging, against every instinct. Sweat stung my eyes. Dirt fell down my shirt. The shadow came again, just a flicker, always on the edge of vision. Every time I blinked, the shape beneath the soil seemed larger, taller than it should be. By mid-afternoon, the excavation revealed something impossible. Not just one shape, but multiple. Heads, faces, pressed into the soil, dozens of them. Lined up beneath the highway like prisoners trapped in clay. Hollow eyes staring up, mouths open as if mid-scream, frozen forever. I gagged, stumbled back. My stomach turned while rising. Other workers didn't see. They laughed, argued about equipment, coffee, deadlines. But I knew what I was seeing, knew it was real, knew it was wrong. I tried to take a picture with my phone. The camera shook in my hand. When I opened the gallery, the images were wrong. Faces blurred, twisted. Some appeared in the distance. outside the trench. The horizon stretched unnaturally, like the world itself had warped around the discovery. I swallowed hard, trying to shake it off. Maybe heat stroke, maybe hallucination. The foreman clapped me on the shoulder. Take a break, we're behind schedule. I stepped back, heart hammering, lungs tight. But when I looked again, the faces had moved, or maybe rotated toward me. The dirt around them seemed to pulse. Slow, rhythmic, like breathing. My phone vibrated. Text, unknown number. Stop digging. I yelped, dropped the shovel. It bounced in the trench. My coworker laughed, but I didn't. The shadow flitted again. Closer, between the machinery, between reality and whatever this was. The sun dipped low, and the shadows lengthened unnaturally. One had lifted slightly, dirt spilling from its form, empty eyes fixed on me. I ran, tripped over hoses, twisted my ankle, dirt under my nails, mud in my hair. Heart thrumming like the jackhammer gone rogue. Back at the truck, hands shaking, I called the foreman. We need to cover this up. Now. He frowned. Cover up what? I swallowed, tried to explain. Words stumbled from my mouth. The objects under the road, they're alive. Silence, and then a low laugh. Not human, not mechanical. Somewhere in the trench, in the shadows beneath the asphalt, just waiting. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. Images burned behind my eyes. Hollow faces, mouths open, endless rows beneath concrete and tar. I kept thinking I heard whispers when no one was near. A soft, endless hiss through the cracks of my walls, curling into my ears. The next day when I returned, the trench was empty, machinery gone, workers cheerful, joking, but the soil had moved, freshly turned perfectly smooth, as if nothing had ever been unearthed. I stared, my heart pounded. My gut told me I wasn't imagining yesterday. The faces were gone, but their presence lingered, beneath the highway, watching, waiting. I didn't say a word. Pretended like everything was normal. Pretended like the fear hadn't burrowed into my bones. But every time I drove past that stretch of highway now, I see them just beneath the asphalt, pressed against the concrete, waiting for someone to dig again. And I can't shake the feeling that they're aware I'm watching too. I couldn't sleep, not after yesterday. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them, rows of hollow faces pressed beneath concrete, staring up at me. I kept telling myself it was stress, too much sun, the long hours. But my gut, cold and rigid, screamed otherwise. By the next morning, I was back at the site, boots crunching over gravel, sunlight hot on my neck. The new asphalt smelled fresh, sticky, impossible. My shovel wasn't meant to touch it today, but curiosity clawed at me. One small test, just a poke. I tapped the edge, metal against tar. The surface shivered under my hand. Not a ripple from heat. Something beneath it moved. I froze. The black tar seemed breathing, rising, sinking. Tiny movements that shouldn't exist in concrete. I grabbed a crowbar, prying at the edge. My fingers slipped, smearing the sticky tar. And then I saw it. A faint indentation, the outline of a face. Not flat, not artistic. Human, just beneath the surface. Pressing up, mouth open, eyes wide, frozen mid-scream. I stumbled back, heart hammering. The foreman shouted from the other side, waving me off. I waved back, pretending it was nothing, but the face kept its gaze. Empty, accusing, like it knew I was watching. I called one of the newer workers over. "Look at this," I said, voice trembling. He leaned down, squinting, brushing the asphalt. "You're seeing things," he muttered. But he did. His hand froze. His eyes widened. And when he pulled back, I could swear the face had shifted slightly, tilted toward me. I sank to my knees. The shadows along the highway stretched, creeping toward the fresh asphalt. My breathing quickened, shallow, uneven. I tried to rationalize. Concrete can crack. Dirt can settle. Shadows can fool you. But every instinct in me screamed that this was alive. The impressions multiplied. Where I had only seen one, there were now 3, 4, a dozen. Human forms pressed beneath black tar, frozen in fear or agony. I could trace their noses, their mouths, the hollows of their eyes. Some faces were twisted, not in pain but in mockery, like they were smiling at the world above them while trapped below. I reached out, wanted to touch the surface. My hand hovered. The moment I touched it, a vibration shot up my arm, sharp and cold. The asphalt pulsed, subtle at first, then stronger. I yanked my hand back. Something was moving beneath me, something alive. A low hum started, almost inaudible, like the whispered prayers of hundreds of buried souls. My knees buckled. I stumbled backward. Machinery rumbled in the distance, but it couldn't mask the sound. It came from the ground, deep, resonating, rhythmic, like breathing. I called the foreman again. Cover it. Just cover before it spreads. He stared at me, confusion etched into his face. What the hell are you talking about? Faces in the asphalt, human impressions, beneath the tar. Don't you see? My voice cracked. His frown deepened. Then laughter, uneasy and sharp. You're losing it, man. Step away. But I couldn't. Every fiber in my body was glued to the pavement. I could see them more clearly now. Some faces, new ones, pressed up through cracks I hadn't noticed before, like they were trying to escape or warn me. Eyes wide, mouths opening and closing silently, mimicking a scream that never made a sound. I backed away, tripping over cones and hoses. My phone vibrated in my pocket. Unknown number. Message. Stop looking. I threw it across the asphalt. It bounced, landing in a puddle of fresh tar. The vibration didn't stop. Another message. They can see you. The shadows grew longer, stretching unnaturally along the highway. I squinted. Something moved at the far edge of the asphalt. A dark form, human-shaped, but wrong. Flickering, indistinct, like heat waves over concrete. Every time I blinked, it seemed closer. I forced myself to focus, one step at a time. Each footfall on the asphalt felt wrong. The surface pulsed beneath me, a heartbeat I could feel through the soles of my boots. I grabbed a piece of broken concrete, smashing at the impressions. The faces recoiled, shifting, twisting. Some eyes followed my movements. Others vanished into the tar. My stomach lurched. This wasn't destruction. This was interaction. I ran to the truck, slammed the door, locked it, breathing hard, sweat soaking my shirt. And still, the faces came to the edges, pressed up as far as they could reach without breaking the asphalt. Their mouths moved, whispering, screaming, both at the same time. I backed out slowly, trying to keep my eyes on the road ahead, but the shapes lingered in my rear-view mirror. Shadows flickered across the truck bed. The vibration beneath my feet followed me as I drove. Every turn, every bump, I could feel them beneath the tires, beneath the metal. By the time I reached home, night had fallen. Darkness swallowed the horizon, but in my room, in my mind, the faces remained. Hollow eyes, mouths agape, pressing against an invisible ceiling, whispering, mocking, waiting. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them, not just beneath the highway, but everywhere, in walls, in mirrors, on the ceiling, watching, waiting. And I realized something terrifying. They weren't just trapped beneath the asphalt. They were connected, to me, to the earth, to everything, pressing through surfaces, through reality, reaching out. I didn't know if I would ever see the highway the same way, or the city, or myself. Every step I take, I feel them beneath me, watching, waiting, always watching. And tomorrow, I'll go back. Because curiosity, once unleashed, doesn't let you rest. Because the asphalt is alive, and it remembers. I woke to the sound of shifting asphalt. It wasn't loud, not like machinery or traffic, but subtle, a low, grinding pulse that vibrated to the soles of my feet and settled into my chest. I sat up in my bed, drenched in sweat, convinced I'd imagined it. But when I touched the floor, the wood hummed faintly, echoing the heartbeat beneath the highway. I knew I had to go back. I didn't want to, but curiosity is a sharper blade than fear. By the time I arrived, the highway was quiet, eerily so, almost waiting. The tar glistened under the early sun. smooth and unbroken. Yet I could feel it moving, breathing beneath the surface. One of the workers noticed my approach. "You're back," he said, a nervous edge in his voice. I didn't answer. I knelt at the edge of the fresh asphalt. Something had changed overnight. The impressions, the faces, had deepened. Their eyes, pressed into tar, now seemed to stare with intent. They were no longer passive. They were aware. I pried at the edge with a crowbar. A small section lifted, enough to see the shapes writhe beneath. It wasn't just faces anymore. Limbs, twisted and contorted, pressed upward. I recoiled but couldn't tear my gaze away. The more I watched, the more I realized they remembered being alive. Every subtle twitch, every flex of finger or foot carried memory, fear, and anger. The foreman called out, telling me to step back. I didn't. I couldn't. The ground was alive in a way that defied reason. A hum rose from it, low and guttural, like a choir of forgotten voices chanting in unison. I pressed my ear close to the asphalt, and I could swear it whispered my name. I stumbled backward, heart pounding, lungs burning. The shadows along the pavement stretched unnaturally, flickering as if the sun itself recoiled from a highway. Then I saw it, a hand, pale and slick with tar, pushing upward, fingertips breaking the surface. It paused, as if testing me, assessing whether I was a threat or just another observer. I froze. Time dilated. Every instinct screamed to run, but I couldn't. The hand moved slowly, agonizingly, followed by another, then an elbow, a shoulder. The shapes of bodies broke the surface like horrific marionettes, frozen mid-struggle. Faces twisted in silent screams, eyes wide, staring. Some seemed to recognize me. Some didn't. All were desperate to rise. A worker screamed behind me, running. His foot slipped on the tar and he fell hard. I watched helpless as one of the figures lunged toward him, not in air, but through the asphalt itself, stretching impossibly, sinew and bone straining beneath the black surface. He scrambled to his feet and bolted, leaving behind a faint scent of wet concrete and fear. I thought about leaving too, about calling the police, about rational explanations, but logic had no place here. The ground itself was betraying reality. I had seen faces pressed beneath asphalt before. Now I saw bodies. And now I realized the highway wasn't holding them down. They were using it as a conduit, a membrane to crawl through, to remember, to come back. The pulsing grew stronger, rhythmic. I felt it in my chest, in my stomach, as if the highway had connected to me, tethered me. I tried to step back, but the asphalt seemed to resist. My boot stuck lightly, and a subtle tug pulled me forward. The hands beneath the surface flexed, reaching, stretching. One hand brushed the underside of the crowbar I held. A shiver ran up my arm. I stumbled, dropped the crowbar. The figure surged upward, more of them, pushing, writhing, faces contorted, some beautiful, some grotesque, but all alive in memory and intent. A figure, a woman, young, eyes wide and familiar, reached up fully, hand brushing my knee. I screamed. She didn't speak, didn't move, except for that desperate reaching. I backed up, tripping over a bucket. Concrete and tar clung to my hands. The foreman's voice shouted from somewhere behind me, but I couldn't locate him. The asphalt stretched, a living skin, pulsing, breathing, growing. Every movement I made seemed to echo in the ground, vibrating through bones, reverberating in my mind. And then I understood. They were not trapped. They were remembering. They were waking. One figure rose completely. A man, eyes hollow yet aware, hair matted with tar. He stretched, limbs jerking in impossible angles. And when he looked at me, the recognition was absolute. "You saw us," his silent gaze accused. "You remember?" I fell backward, hitting the gravel. The sun's light danced across the surface, highlighting every bulge, every twitching hand, every face. The highway had become a grotesque mosaic of human memory, rising in fits and starts, pressing into reality. The foreman finally reached me, pulling me away, shouting about machinery and safety. I looked back. The figures didn't vanish. They receded slightly, melting under the tar, but I could see the contours, the shapes, the determination to surface again. The asphalt wasn't finished with me. It wasn't finished with anyone. I staggered home, boots heavy, heart heavier. The hum followed me, quiet now but persistent, like a reminder. Every surface I passed, the road, the sidewalk, even my own floor, felt thin, like it could tear and reveal what waited beneath. That night, I dreamt of hands pushing through my bedroom floor, faces pressing up, mouths opening, whispering. I woke in a cold sweat, convinced I could still hear the pulse beneath my mattress. I don't know how long I can stay away. Every instinct warns me. Every sense tells me that the highway is alive, that it remembers, that it waits. And I know I can't ignore it, because one day it will surface completely. And when it does, I'm not sure the world will be ready. The engine hummed low, a steady murmur against the stillness of the night. Streetlights flickered lazily along the abandoned road, their glow weak, unreliable. I gripped the steering wheel tighter than usual, though I told myself it was habit. Just nerves on my last shift. Last shift. That phrase echoed in my skull, heavy and hollow, like the space between two heartbeats. It was quiet, too quiet. No other cars, no wind stirring the leaves. Just the road stretching ahead, dark and endless. I had patrolled this stretch 100 times. I knew every curve, every dip, every shadow. But tonight felt different, as if the road was waiting patient, watching. My radio crackled, a mundane static that made me jump. All clear. I muttered, trying to shake the unease crawling under my skin. But the hair on my arms prickled. I passed an old turnoff, overgrown with weeds, and for a fraction of a second, I thought I saw movement there. A figure? Maybe a deer. But the shape was too deliberate, too human. I blinked, and it was gone. I tried to focus on the task, driving slowly, lights sweeping the asphalt. Then I heard it, a soft tapping, almost rhythmic, from the rear of the car, heart racing. I glanced at the rearview mirror. Empty. Nothing but the reflection of the road behind me, stretching into black. My breath caught. My pulse kicked up a notch. The tapping came again, now more insistent, like fingernails on metal. I checked the back seat. Empty. Every instinct screamed to leave, to call in, to forget this last shift. But some part of me, stubborn and foolish, kept going. The radio sputtered again, static. Then a voice. Not the dispatcher. Not anyone I knew. Quiet, almost a whisper. Why are you here? I froze. The voice didn't come through the speakers. It came from inside the car, from somewhere behind me. I spun around. Empty. Just the empty seat. My own breathing loud, ragged. I told myself it was fatigue, stress, retiring, the road playing tricks. But then headlights appeared behind me. A car distant, keeping pace. Too slow, too deliberate. And yet no sound, no engine, only the faint glow of its lamps. I sped up. The lights matched every change, mirrored my movements perfectly. Panic rose like bile. I turned down a side road, narrow, overgrown. The lights followed. Not a car, not a reflection. Something else, something patient, waiting for me. I pressed the accelerator harder, heart slamming. Then the headlights vanished. Nothing. Silence again. I slowed, trying to catch my breath, shaking hands gripping the wheel. That's when I saw it. A shadow crouched at the edge of the road, barely visible human-like, but wrong. Too still, too deliberate. It raised a hand, not to wave, not a signal. Just up, pointing at me, or maybe at something I couldn't see. I wanted to drive past, to ignore, but some primal need kept my eyes locked on it. The road stretched, empty, and yet I felt its weight. The night pressed down on me, thick, suffocating. The darkness alive somehow, watching, breathing. I passed a shadow, quickened pace. But then the radio came alive again. Static first, then words fragmented, like someone breathing through cloth. Don't leave, not yet. My stomach knotted. My hands shook. The car felt suddenly smaller, tighter, as if the night itself was pressing in. The rear-view mirror betrayed me again. Reflected there, for a heartbeat, was a second shadow, inside the car this time. sitting in the back seat, hunched. I slammed my eyes shut, dared not look, but I felt it, smelled it, something metallic, something familiar and wrong. My pulse thundered. I told myself I was imagining it, retiring. The mind plays tricks when the night stretches too long. But then I glanced at the speedometer. It wasn't moving. The engine hummed, yes, but the speed stayed the same. My hands gripped the wheel, panic clawing at my throat. Something tapped again. Light, insistent, on my shoulder. I whipped around. Empty, only the cold weight of fear pressing down. The road ahead flickered, like it wasn't real, like it existed in pieces. Patches of asphalt stitched together by something unseen. I tried to accelerate, turn, anything. But the car bayed sluggishly, as if the tires themselves were caught in invisible tethers. The shadow reappeared in the rear view, closer now, just behind my seat. A face emerged, pale, expressionless. Eyes locked on mine. And then another, and another, pressing up from the edges of the darkness. Not just figures, but fragments, faces half-formed, stretching toward me. I screamed. No sound came out. The night swallowed everything. The road, the lights, even the car. My hands clawed at the wheel. I wanted to wake, to blink, to escape. But the shadows weren't leaving. They were patient, waiting, watching. And then just as suddenly as it began, it stopped. The road stretched ahead empty again. The shadows gone. The radio silent. My breathing ragged, body trembling. I parked at the side, hands gripping the wheel. Pulse slowing, but the feeling remained. The knowledge that I had not been alone. Not even for a moment. I stepped out, staring down the empty stretch. Quiet. Nothing moved. And yet, when I looked back at the car, I could swear the rear seat was no longer empty. Something had been waiting for me there, patient and unseen, and I knew, deep down, it wasn't done. Not yet. I drove home in silence. Lights off, hands tight on the wheel. Every shadow on the side of the road seemed alive. Every curve of asphalt whispered. And when I locked the door behind me, I couldn't shake the feeling that the final shift hadn't ended. It had only begun. I don't know what followed me home. I don't want to know. But I hear it at night. The quiet tap, the soft scrape, the whispering patient calling me back to that road. And I know one day I'll have an answer. The headlights cut through the black like knives. But the road didn't end. No signs, no intersections. Nothing but asphalt curling into the shadows ahead. I slowed, unease settling deep in my chest. The radio crackled again, static first, then silence. No dispatcher, no response, just emptiness. I looked around, the trees pressing from both sides, their branches scratching at the car like skeletal fingers. I should have felt relief, at least knowing I was on a path. But the more I drove, the more I realized the road didn't branch. Every turn curved back, leading me to the same stretch I had already passed. It didn't make sense. Roads didn't behave like this. A sound, a faint shuffle, made me glance out the side window. Nothing, only the fog curling low across the pavement. Dense enough to hide a person, dense enough to swallow a car. I tightened my hands on the wheel. My pulse thudded in my ears. Why wasn't anyone out here? Not a single other car, not a passing truck, not a lonely runner or a cyclist. Just me, alone. I tried the radio again, muttering into the microphone. Static. I twisted the dial, but the channels were dead. No chatter, no life, just the hum of the engine and the steady rhythm of my tires against asphalt. The fog thickened, visibility dropping to barely a car length ahead. Shapes seemed to shift at the edge of the light. Trees, rocks, maybe figures? I blinked and they were gone. Was I seeing things? Sleep deprivation? Last night's shift pressing itself onto my mind? I caught a movement in the rear view mirror. Shadows, always just at the corner of my vision, vanishing when I turned to look. I swore the seat behind me shifted, like someone or something had leaned forward. My throat went dry. I told myself it was the curve of the seat, the play of light and shadow. It had to be. And then I noticed something on the road. Tire tracks, yes, but older layer beneath mine. And footprints. Bare footprints, wet and dark, leading alongside the asphalt. I slowed, heart hammering. They didn't look recent, but something about them made my stomach twist. Human, yes, but elongated, distorted, the toes too long, the heels too narrow. I wanted to stop, wanted to turn around, retrace my path, but the road had no end. Every turn, every backtrack brought me back to the same fog-blanketed stretch. And the footprints, they multiplied, not just alongside the road. They appeared in the middle, as if something had walked directly in front of me, something waiting. The tapping returned, light, deliberate, from the rear of the car. I checked the back seat, empty, yet I could feel it, the weight of attention pressing down, patient, watching. My eyes darted around. The fog swirled unnaturally. Shadows seemed to lengthen, twisting toward the car. I could feel their movement in the air, the subtle shift of pressure. A voice, low, guttural, barely audible, slithered through the silence. You shouldn't be here. Not through the radio. Inside my head, or somewhere just behind it. I swallowed hard, gripping the wheel until my knuckles ached. My mouth was dry, but I whispered back anyway. I'm leaving. The fog lifted slightly, and I saw them. Shapes at the edge of the tree lane. Not running, not hiding, just standing, watching. Human? Maybe. Faces? Not quite. Something inhuman lingered in the features, elongated, distorted, patient, waiting. And they were everywhere just beyond the light. The road was littered with them, as if the forest itself had left them there. Statues frozen mid-step. I tried to drive faster, but the engine didn't respond as it should. The accelerator pressed, the RPMs climbed, yet the car didn't move forward as I expected. The road stretched endlessly, unyielding, and the shapes, the shadows, began to move closer, not running, not chasing, but drifting, sliding alongside the edges of the headlights, never quite touching, always watching. The rear view mirror betrayed me again. One of the figures appeared there, crouched, staring, pale, thin, impossible, its head tilted slightly, as if curious about me, weighing me. I blinked, gone, but I could feel its gaze. Still there. I forced myself to keep moving. The road twisted unnaturally, the same curves, the same stretch, yet subtly different each pass. Signs appeared then vanished. Faded markings, cracked asphalt, footprints that shouldn't exist. My hands shook, eyes darting, ears straining. The silence was complete, and yet every sound, the distant drip of water, the crunch of gravel beneath tires, the soft shuffle behind me, was amplified. Something pressed against the back of my mind, a whispering presence that wasn't entirely in this world. I wanted to stop, to abandon the car, but fear rooted me. I couldn't step into the fog, couldn't leave the vehicle that now felt like a fragile sanctuary. The shapes multiplied, shadows stacking, reaching. Each turn of the road revealed more, always just at the edge of perception. I passed a section where the asphalt had cracked, jagged lines splitting the surface, and there, etched into the pavement, were faces, pale, distorted, pressed into black tars of trapped. Eyes open, mouths frozen in silent screams. And they weren't alone. New faces emerged with every mile, pressing upward, twisting toward me. Some seemed familiar, maybe faces I'd seen in passing, or ones I imagined, dredged up from memory. The tapping on the car returned, soft at first, then insistent from the rear. I dared a glance. Empty, but the fog shifted again, and something pressed against the passenger window. A hand? A face? Gone before I could be certain. The mind races in these moments, I told myself, but deep down I knew something alive, or what remembered being alive, was on this road with me. I tried the radio one last time. Static, and then brief, just a second, a voice. Why do you run? The road curved sharply. I lost control for a moment, fishtailing slightly. Shadows flowed beneath the wheels, something skimming the asphalt, always present. I gripped the wheel, tried to keep forward, to find an exit that didn't exist. Every instinct screamed, panic clawing at me. But where? There was no one else. No exits. No living souls. Just the shapes, the whispers, and the unending road. And then, for a heartbeat, everything stopped. Silence. fog lifted slightly. The road ahead was clear, or as clear as it could be, endless. I dared to breathe, but when I glanced at the rear view mirror, the back seat wasn't empty. Eyes, too many, watching, patient, waiting. I slammed the accelerator. The road curved, twisted, but no exit appeared. And somewhere deep in the fog, I knew they were there, drifting alongside, sliding closer with every mile. Not running, not chasing, waiting. I don't know how long I drove. Hours? Minutes? The road stretched like a nightmare that refused to end. And when I finally dared to stop, hands shaking, heart hammering, the silence pressed down again. I am not alone. I am never alone. And no one else is out here.